get my suit measured. Yes!
When we had him, first of all, it's always been the same actually. As soon as you get on his back, he'd throw you off. In fact, I've got a funny story about him. One day, down the gallops, and he was loose. He used to get loose quite often, throw the lads off, and I caught him at the top of the gallops. I was a bit younger in those days. Managed to catch him, jumped on him, and rode him down the gallops. And one of the girls, Mary, said, Governor, you know what that horse is, don't you? You sure you'll be safe on that? And I said, Mary, you still love me then.
Here's one of your more recently retired horses.
Lord Guyleen. Super, isn't he? Lovely big horse. Steve Brookshaw won the 97 Grand National with him, ridden by Tony Dobbin. He jumps really well, remember that National. Really exciting. But he just couldn't stand the pressures of racing. So I thought the best thing to do is to retire him.
It's Make a Stand, getting a tremendous reception from the crowd. He's running in great style. Make a Stand, the winner.
One of our champion hurdle winners, Make a Stand.
But Marty, you owned half of him when he won the champion hurdle, didn't you?
Yes, I was very lucky. Very lucky. We couldn't sell him, so it was a bit of luck, really. This one was owned by Peter Deal and myself. He won the Tote Go Trophy for us, went through the season as a novice, and went on to win the champion hurdle. Superb ride from Tony McCoy. I think he still holds the track record, does he, at Cheltenham? I'm not sure. But he jumps for fun, and he's only 10. He's only 10. Tried to get him back, but he couldn't stand it. So he'll be retired here. He'll lead all the youngsters. He'll be ridden around the place. He'll lead the youngsters over the hurdles. Teach them how to jump, we hope, Sunshine, won't you? Yes, you will. Yes, you will. This is a different character. This is a different character.
He looks as if he's going to jump out the window, doesn't he?
He's frightened. He hasn't seen the cameras for a long time. This is Skipping Tim, a real individual. In fact, the owner sent this one to the sales, and when we had to buy him back, he's more nervous of anybody. It's impossible to catch him out in the field. We've just brought him in. As you can see, he's been out enjoying himself.
This fellow is very different because you didn't buy him till he was 10 and he won 28 races. But also, I mean, he isn't a star. Like the others you've got, are star horses. This is just an old mate, isn't it?
He went to the sales and he wouldn't, nobody else would have understood him, honestly. We didn't want him to fall into bad hands, so we bought this one back. And it takes us a job to catch him out in the field, to give him a flu jab. We still have to keep all the jabs up to date. And we have to take about 10 of us and get him in the corner. You can try these in there.
Ah, yes.
There they are.
This one.
There we are. You're better now, aren't you? This is Challenger Deluxe. He is big, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's super. Lovely temperament. Very, very quiet. Super individual. This one won the Cathcart for us at the Cheltenham Festival. And also won the Murphys, didn't he? The Murphys Handicap. It was good. He's a real lad.
So, I mean, he looks as if he's almost being used, Martin, is he?
No, he's just retired at present, being rested. But he can be ridden. There's nothing wrong with him at all. David Johnson thought he'd give him a nice home. And he'll find this one back at his place one day so that he can look after him. But in the meantime, we're looking after him. Another owner's still paying for them. So he really looks after his horses and really loves them. But we've had some great fun with him. I remember this one, we took him to Exeter first time out, told the owner he was a certainty, couldn't get beat, went off in front, made all, finished last.
Can you win it again?
It is like a drug, you know. You win and you want to win it again. I've only won the Grand National once. I really would love to win it again.
And he just might, because one of his fancied runners is Northern Starlight, who's ridden by this young man here, 18-year-old amateur Tom Scudamore. And Tom, we're having a bit of lunch because your dad is just making his way over here. Peter, will you come over here as well? You're distracting the boy before the big race already.
It's very difficult for him with all this. I think for everybody, I mean, the whole occasion gets to you. You're trying to get your mind right. You better ask him about it, but I do know what he's going through. Yeah, he was a bit grumpy last night, a bit edgy last night. I was trying to watch our wonderful TV show in his room, but I was getting slung out.
Did you see your dad in The Weakest Link last night?
I saw a little bit of it, but I wasn't really concentrating on it, I have to say.
I bet you weren't. So let's talk about Northern Starlight then. How much do you know about him?
Obviously, I've ridden him at home. I've schooled him at home. I'm very pleased Mr. Pipes let me ride him. I mean, he's been a good horse on his day. He won here last year over the national fences. He's won some very big races in his time, and I'm just looking forward to the experience.
What about this weather out here then?
Well, perhaps the weather's gone a little bit against him. AP said if it had been a bit drier, he would have ridden him. But no, I'm just looking forward to the experience. I can't wait.
I've got to say, Scooby, he looks extremely relaxed for someone who's going to have a major experience in a couple of hours.
Perhaps he should be an actor instead of a jockey. I don't know. Obviously, it doesn't quite filter through to you, I think, until you get the first 3 or 4 races over, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's the next bit, as I'm in there doing my little bit in a minute with the jockeys, and I hope I can get that atmosphere across. But it really is, the National is on a different level to any other race that we ride in. Cheltenham Gold Cups are wonderful races to ride in. The National is just that little bit special.
And of course, Tom, you're no stranger to the National, because we actually have some shots of you. You were here a few years ago. In fact, I think it was about 1990. There you are.
I'd better taste the fashion back then than I do now, anyway.
But you've been to the National every year?
Yeah, every year since I was about 8, I suppose. Obviously, I never got to see the old man win it.
No, none of us did. But I wasn't going to bring that up after last year.
Actually, none of us saw Grandad win it either. It was that long ago.
Have you spoken to your Grandad?
Yeah, I spoke to him this morning. Obviously, he wished me luck. It's a pity he can't be here today, but I'm sure he'll be watching it somewhere.
So what are you going to do now for the build-up? I know you've got a runner as well.
Yeah, I've got a ride beforehand, hit and run, which again I'm looking forward to ride. He's been very good to me. So that sort of keeps the nerves down a little bit, but come 3:30 I might be shaking a little bit.
No, I'm sure you look extremely calm, but I'm not sure Peter will be quite the same when the race is going on.
There'll be a bigger version of somebody doing that in a minute.
You want to see mother and grandmother as well?
Well, it's wonderful, and you never know, another family occasion in the winner's enclosure, we hope so. Tom, good luck, and Peter, we'll hear from you later. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Sue.
Well, the rain continues to fall and the market is taking shape. Edmund is now favourite for the Martel Grand National at 8-1. Papillon, last year's winner, is 12-1. Moral Support, there's been a lot of money for him, also 12-1. Melly Moss, bidding to become the first horse to win the National on his seasonal debut since 1889. He's a 14-1 chance. Beau, the top weight, is 40-1. Inish Kara, there's been a lot of money for him, now trained by Venetia Williams, a 14-1 chance as well. Smarty for Mark Pittman, 18-1. And the last fling is a 20-1 chance. He finished 7th last year. Earth Mover didn't get very far last year. He's 20-1, so too is Paddy's Return, Blowing Wind, and Hollybank Buck for Ireland. Noble Lord was doubtful earlier this morning. He definitely runs. He's a 25-1 chance. And Kieran Kelly has his first ever ride in Britain. 25-1 chance, Dark Stranger. Spanish Main was tipped up a lot in the papers this morning. 25-1 the price. 33-1, Strong Tell, Addington Boy, Red Marauder for Richard Guest, and Village King. That could be a decent each-way chance for Philip Hobbs. His horses are in great form. Brave Highlander has got round here many times. He's been 4th and 6th in the last 2 years. He's 40-1 with Jeddah, Supreme Charm, and Feels Like Gold is a 50-1 chance. General Wolf will like the ground. He's 50-1. We talked to Tom Scudamore just a minute ago. He gets his first ride in the National on Northern Starlight. Esprit de Corse went down a beach a second time last year for Mick Fitzgerald. He's 50-1. So too is Mr. One and Mark Bradburn. Lance Armstrong, the man, won the Tour de France. Can the horse win the Grand Tour de Liverpool? Khaki Crazy's only a 6-year-old, a 66-1 chance. Now we're on to the real long shots, and the 100-1 shot is Moondigua. It's 150-1, No Retreat. 200-1, Art Prince, who fell at the first last year. The going, as we've been saying, is heavy.
So I wonder whose name will be added to the great roll of honour of national winners. Now, did you have any money on West Tip in '86 or party politics in the election year of '92? It's time to turn the clock back and honour some of the brave horses who have conquered this daunting course. They're now about to parade in front of the grandstand, so let's join Richard Pittman.
Thanks, Sue. Yes, we've got some heroes for you. Sadly, no heroines. Here's West Tip, 24 years of age now, and doesn't he look well? He's led up by Becky Titterton, and who will forget his great victory in 1986? Richard Dunwoody on board there, of course. Michael Oliver trained for Peter Luff. A great victory there in heavy ground. Party Politics is the biggest horse I've ever seen. He stands at 18-1 hands high. He's 17 years of age now, and he lives at his owner's stud, the Cheveley Park at Newmarket. Well, do you remember him coming home under Carl Llewellyn? Carl, of course, has had 2 Grand National winners, both times as the result of other jockeys breaking their legs. A big horse with a big heart, known as Peanut. A Mini Homer, quite small compared to Party Politics. He was owned by comedian Freddie Starr, and Martin Pipe produced this one to win his only national winner to date. At the time, Richard Dunwoody powered him home there, and in doing so, landed some hefty gambles from 33s to 16 to 1. He's a funny old character. He wasn't on this day. He looks great. Royal Athlete, what a handsome horse he is. Now, Royal Athlete won the race back in '95. He's 18 years of age now, and he's doing a lot of hunting and a lot of dressage. Jason Titley rode him on that occasion. Jenny Pittman's second winner in this fantastic steeplechase. Rough Quest, he now is 15 years of age. He won it in 1996, and in doing so, well, he landed a dream for Terry Casey and the Waits family. On that occasion, it was dramatic. You saw that he crossed on Coron Pur, trained by Martin Pipe. But after the steward's inquiry, which lasted some time, the result stood. It was Mick Fitzgerald on Rough Quest, the winner. Well, Lord Galeen is the 1997 winner, as you've seen. He's been retired to Martin Pipe's stable, and Sir Stanley Clark was the proud owner of this fellow when he won. Steve Brookshaw was the trainer, and Tony Dobbin on board. This was the time, of course, the race was won on a Monday. That's a question for Monopoly, not Monopoly, whatever you call it. Trivial Pursuit. What about Earth Summit? What an amazing horse he is. And he's led up by his lass, Marcella Bayliss. They gave this horse to Marcella after his great victory, when he retired after this 7-1 victory under Carl Llewellyn, owned by a syndicate headed by Nigel Payne, the press officer here at Aintree. But he's known as Digger at home, and he leads the point-to-pointers in all their work and schooling. He's one of the heroes here parading today, and who will be added to this list about 4 o'clock this afternoon.
And just after 4 o'clock this afternoon, we'll know who will be added to that great list of champions, as one winner will come down here into the winner's enclosure. That's after 4 o'clock. But there's also only going to be one winner of the BBC's Grand National Weakest Link. Yes, you may have seen a very painful first round in last night's preview programme. Yes, it's time for our racing team to look away now. Here is round 2 of the Grand National Weakest Link, and it's time for me to hand over to someone called Sue Robinson. In round 1, Jim was the first to make the walk of shame, while Claire and Angus both impressed with strong performances. But Richard's phone a friend tactics didn't work. So just to remind you, the point of this game, it is to bank as much money as possible. And in this round, there'll be less time, just 2 minutes. And I'll start with the strongest link. Claire, that's you. Time starts now. Manifesto appeared in more nationals than any other horse. How many?
5.
8. Scoo, who was the last permit holder to train a Grand National winner?
Frank Gilman.
Correct. Richard, how old was Bruce Hobbs when he became the youngest winning jockey on Battleship?
17.
In 1938, yes. Angus, the chair is the tallest fence on the course, but how high is it?
5'2".
Correct. Claire, Bobby Joe's win in 1999 was the first Irish success since which horse?
Lescargo.
Correct. Scoo, who owned Red Rum?
Noel Lemaire.
Yes. Richard, name the Norwegian horse that fell at the first last year.
Trinitron.
Yes, Trinitro, I'll accept that. Angus, only 2 greys have won the Grand National. Name one of them.
Pass.
The Lamb in 1868 and 1871, and Nicholas Silver in 1961. Claire, Aintree was the first course in Britain to set up its own website. True or false?
True.
Correct. Scoo, how many favourites have won in the last 20 years? How many
4.
favourites? No, 3. Richard, who was the first female jockey to ride in the Grand National?
Charlotte Brew on a very hairy chaser.
1977.
Bank.
Angus, name the only horse to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup and the Grand National in the same season.
Golden Miller.
Yes. Claire, Papillon jockey Ruby Walsh won the race at his first attempt. True or false?
True.
Yes. Scoo, why was Emlyn Hughes unable to watch his horse, Wayward Scott, run in 1979?
Playing football.
Need more?
Playing for
Which competition?
FA Cup.
Yes, Richard, last year's runner-up. Melly Moss was having his first race of the season.
Oh, can't I?
No. Last year's runner-up, Melly Moss, was having his first race of the season. True or false?
Very true.
Yes. Angus, who was the last amateur to win the national?
Marcus Armitage.
Yes, in 1990. Claire, Richard Dunwoody rode in the race on 14 occasions. How many times was he placed?
He won twice.
Out of time, it was 8 times. Well, in that round, you seem to be getting the hang of it, but who is looking unsure in the saddle? More Ruby Wax than Ruby Walsh, more McCoyce than McCoy. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
In that round, Richard was on fire, but Angus slipped up on a very easy one. Will that tell against him?
Scoot.
Nothing personal.
Very personal.
Totally honest.
Claire, do you remember Richard getting any questions wrong?
No, Richard did extremely well. As I said, it was nothing personal. He seems to think the game is to vote off the strongest link, so I thought I'd follow his lead.
Scoot, who do you mean by that? Well, Richard, you were the strongest link. You didn't get any of your questions wrong, but tactical voting, it seems. With 2 votes, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Sue. You left these in my car, by the way.
Richard, you weren't the weakest link. Do you think they just don't like you?
Never have, Charlie, but it's never worried me because I know that there is a reward in heaven one day.
Do you think Claire's now got it in for you?
No, she's good. I think it'll come down to Claire and Gus in the end. I think Claire will probably come out best because Gus knows where the strength is in the BBC team. He's looking after his contract.
Richard, the wig has got to go, and if I'd been wearing my glasses, I would have known I was in the wrong car the night before. But anyway, joining me now is Ferdy Murphy, who has 2 runners in the big race. But I think you're a bit afraid to come up here after seeing that display, weren't you, Ferdy?
Well, yes, it's fairly formidable facing you, Sue, you know, so...
The glasses did it, didn't it?
Well, my 2 kids were watching last night. We stayed in the hotel, and you frighten the life out of them to go in the closet for about an hour.
But you're all right here. I mean, the money that we're raising from the weakest link is going to help the farmers who have struggled during this foot-and-mouth crisis. And I know that that was an issue that you felt very strongly about.
Yes, I think that's fantastic. I didn't know that you raise money for the farmers. I think it's fantastic. And adding the boy who runs the National today, we put him up there, and Martel very kindly sponsored him with A&3 and for the Rabbi, which is the charity that looks after the farmers. And he's been won by a chap in Wales who I haven't met yet. I'm looking forward to meeting him. But if he just takes the farmers' minds off their plight for 1.5 hours, so it'll be absolutely, looking at you as well, it'll be absolutely fantastic for them.
I don't think so, somehow. But talking of owners, you've also got Paddy's returner and Paddy O'Donnell. He's brought a whole army with him, I believe.
Yeah, he's got a big team up from Cricklewood and Hendon, and you know, Paddy's a great supporter. He comes here every year, and they've been, you know, they've been getting this thing up for about 3 months. So he's got a big team here, and he'll give him a good cheer. It's a shame about the ground for both of my horses, but both of them are good ground horses. But you know, it's the same for everybody, and let's hope all the jockeys ride sensibly, and we get all the horses back in one piece. That's the main priority, and there's going to be some lucky person in here this evening. Whoever it is, we wish them luck.
Absolutely, but the ground, as you say, really doesn't suit yours.
No, they'll struggle on. I think Paddy will handle it better than Addington Boy. He's got a bit of youth on his side. He's got the blinkers on. He might run into a place. You know, you never know. This is a funny old game, this. But so long as I get the 2 horses back in one piece, Sue, that's my main priority.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ferdy, for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Sue. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I think this is the appropriate place to talk to Ginger McCain, the man who trained Red Rum to 3 Grand National victories, and you got 2 runners in the race this year with decent chances, do you think?
I think they've both got excellent chances. I really, really do. And you know, it's a real old-fashioned Liverpool today, isn't it? A real old-fashioned Aintree with a bit of mud around, and it's going to take a tough horse and a tough man to run, you know, to win this race today.
Now, you've got Handicap and Amberley House, for those looking down the list. They're big, big prices.
I think the prices are utterly, utterly ridiculous. I really, really do. I cannot believe that they're the prices that they are. I wonder about some of these tipsters and newspaper people. I think they're getting the money under false pretences. I seriously do. I think Handicap, really, although he's had very, very delicate legs all his life, he's a class horse of the race. Son of Lions Win. He'd won twice at Cheltenham. He's only had 14 runs in his life and won 6 of those. We had 2 very, very quiet sighting shots with him. Haydock the first time, he slipped up at the third down the back when Tony Dobbins said he wouldn't have swapped his chance with anybody. We went for that DV race after that with the jockey absolutely tied down to what he had to do, over-tied down. He finished 9th. If he'd got his racing before, he'd unquestionably finished in the first half dozen. I think he would have been 20 to 1 for the race. He wasn't. He came home sound. We've done a fair old bit of work with him since, and he is fit. Might be questionable about whether he handles the ground or not. That I'm not quite certain of, but we're going to find out.
How much have things changed for you, though, since this fellow was running?
Not an awful lot, really. I mean, they're all right. I'd possibly get treated with more respect than I'm entitled to. But that aside, I've always loved this place, loved it. And people know my old horse. They basically know me, sort of thing, you know. And that old statue behind, which I think Phil Blacker made a brilliant job of, there's no question about that at all. It's all part and parcel of Aintree, which I'm just glad to be associated with and have been involved with.
Well, it's great to see you here and with 2 runners that you say have a decent chance. Ginger, thanks.
Yeah, well, sorry, the Amberley House, I must say that. He's running the heavy. Warren Marsden rides him, and he got off Noble Lord to ride him.
Oh, we've got a few people getting a bit overexcited here. I'll get you to sort them out, because I think you would. We won't tell them that you fancy horses at 150 to 1. I don't think they deserve the money.
I've backed it at 150 to 1.
Good for you, but your money where your mouth is. Thanks, Ginger.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, such a popular figure. Lovely to see him back at Aintree. But now we're ready for our first race of the day. It's the Cordon Bleu Handicap Hurdle, and here's Jim McGrath with the runners and riders.
Thanks, Sue. Number 1 is Hit and Run, Mr. Tom Scudamore, who later today will be having his first ride in the National. Number 2 is the French Furs, Geoffrey Huet claiming the 5. 3, Rooster Booster, Richard Johnson. 4, Milligan, Norman Williamson. Number 5, Copeland, Tony McCoy. 6 is Dane Gold, Warren Marston. 7, Fondmore, Mick Fitzgerald. Number 8, St. Piran, Adrian Maguire. 9 is Deepwater, Brian Harding. Take out 10, Golden Goal. 11, Ebal, the winner of the Imperial Cup at Sandown Park, Mr. Ben Hitchcott claiming the 5. 12 is Minivet, being ridden by J.P. McNamara. 13, Lawa Hick, Noel Feely. 14, Ferrers, David O'Meara claiming the 5. 15 is Docklands Limo, Carl Llewellyn. Take out 16, Cardiff Arms. 17 is Super Nomad, Tony Dobbin. Number 18, Supreme Fortune, the mount of Alan Dempsey. 19 is Bant's Wing, Dean Gallagher. 20 is Casala, the mount of Robert Thornton. 21, Morrow Sovereign, Mr. Marcus Foley claiming the 7, and take out Saye, number 22. So we have 3 non-runners. They are Golden Goal, Cardiff Arms and Saye. That leaves a field of 19 and a wide betting race. To tell us all about it, here's Angus Loughran.
Ebal is the 6 to 1 favourite, having opened up at 9.
And these are the well-known colours of Graham Roach. Now, Graham Roach had some good horses. St. Piran carries them today. Number 8, he's by Be My Native. He's done very little wrong. He is a lovely horse and a typical son of his stallion. Adrian Maguire riding for Paul Nicholls here. He's drifted a point in the betting, but he's run up against some really good horses all year. You know, Is No Good didn't frank the form, but others have. Illico, and we like him a lot.
There is the colours of number 11, Ebal. This horse won at Sandown last time, won a big race. He's in the hands of the very capable amateur, Mr. Ben Hitchcock. Ben Hitchcock is actually leading the amateur's title. I know very well because my son is in 2nd place. But this horse is trained by Nadine Smith at Pulborough. Nadine on a comeback trail, but she's always been an excellent trainer, a very, very good handler of horses. Though this horse has gone up a little bit in the weight, I think he'll handle the ground. He's French bred and he'll run a big race.
Dean Gallagher will be wearing these colours. They're number 19's colours, Batswing. Now, this is a very good horse on the flat. He won the Manchester November Handicap. He also came back to win a very, very good hurdle race 2 runs ago, but then was brought down behind Ibel last time out. That wouldn't worry him. He's trained by Brian Ellison. Gallagher on board.
The next horse we're looking for is Milligan. There he is in the background, the mount of Norman Williamson. Norman, who rides Melly Moss, who was 2nd in the Grand National last year, and Milligan is trained by Venetia Williams, who has 2 runners in this year's race. Milligan is a horse I really like. absolutely bolted in at Wetherby beginning of the season. I've put it in my notebook after that. Disappointed once or twice, but it came good at Newbury when it was third in the Tote Handicap hurdle. That was a good run. Disappointed next time at Sandown, but I think the hill at Sandown caught him out. I think the flat track will suit him well today. I'd be a little bit worried about the ground.
And his jockey Norman Williamson, absolutely mother and father of a fall yesterday. They are as tough as teeth. What about the top weight? Hit and Run. He's got 11.10 here, owned by Jerry Scanlon and Judy Kirk. Tom Scudamore on board taking the 3 off. He's already had a winner for Martin Pipe at this meeting. And Hit and Run, a confirmed front runner, deserves to win a decent prize.
Yeah, I think you'll see Hit and Run come towards the stand side in the latter part of the race. He's jumps a little bit right-handed occasionally.
Another Pipe runner here, French Furs in the red colours of Jim Ennis.
Yes, Jim, a terrific supporter of National Hunt Racing. I rode some good horses for him myself. French Fur in the hands of the capable French rider Geoffrey Huey, who is down at Martin Pipes. This is another French runner, a front runner even, and a French front runner even. And anyway, let's have a look at it in the betting.
Super Nomad's been backed in the last few minutes, 14 to 1 into 11 to 1, but the punters really just are confused here. All the action at the moment in the betting shops is for the Grand National. There are just so many horses being backed. This is almost a sideshow, but it is an interesting race in its own right, and it is a race that's very open. To be quite honest, anything could win, and the punters are showing that with their opposition to so many of the front runners in the market, sixth the field.
Well, look at the grey there, Rooster Booster. He's in Terry Warner's colours. He already had a winner at the meeting. This horse is a super animal. He's run up against all sorts. Behind Landing Light at Newbury in the Tote Gold Trophy, had Milligan behind him, Hit and Run, Copeland, Ferrars and the French Furs. He's definitely in with a squeak. Very nice horse.
The horse I'm looking for is number 17 of the green colours. I think white with the green sleeves. That's Super Nomad. Was second last time to a real horse, heavy ground horse, or fourth to a real heavy ground horse, Springfield Scally last time. But before that, ran well round here. It's drifted a little bit from 11 to 1, from 12 to 1. So let's have a... Yeah, there is Emlyn, a very, very keen racing man, as you would have seen from my question on Weakest Link. I saw him in the Owners and Trainers bar with his family earlier on. He's in great form.
Doesn't spend much on umbrellas, though, does he? Right, they're coming out. They won't hang around. It's going to be important to see what effect this rain has had, whether it makes it sloppy and easier to go through.
I think you'll see the riders spread out all over the course, although Thomas is lining up on the inner there. Jim, see if I'm right or not.
They're lining up Scoot. Yes, Thomas Scudamore taking them up towards the tapes. Later today, he'll become the third generation of Scudamores to ride in the Grand National.
All okay at the back.
That's it.
Come on.
Under orders, and they're away. No one wanted to go on except for Tom, and he takes it up on Hit and Run. Goes on very easily by 6 or 8 lengths as they sort themselves out through the first furlong or so. Ebal, the Imperial Cup winner, settling in second, and further back behind them is the French Furs, followed by Ferrers on the outside. Next in the field is Burroughs Sovereign from Docklands Limo. St. Piran settling about 8th as this leader, as he likes to do, getting away from the field. Coming to the first of 9. Hit and Run hurdles it well from Ebal. French Furs takes it in third from Ferrers and Burroughs Sovereign. So they're all over the first okay. Heading up now towards the second, and it's Hit and Run, the far side by 3 lengths to Ebal, 6 lengths away Docklands Limo in the centre there from Ferrers, as they all clear that one well. As we switch camera angle here, as they come towards the third, the 2 leading amateurs, first and second, Tom Scudamore and Ben Hitchcock, 1 and 2. Hit and Run on the far side, Ebal on the near side from Docklands Limo and Ferrers, then the French Furs, followed by Burroughs Sovereign. 2 or 3 lengths then to Deep Water, followed by St. Piran, about 8th position on the outside of Milligan. They're followed by Bat's Wing, and back in the field is Super Nomad as they pass the judge. They're followed by Font Moore, is giving them a start with Lower Hick and Rooster Booster. Copeland is out the back and company there with Minivet. Out deeper on the track is Dane Gold, followed then by Casala. And last is Supreme Fortune as they race out with just under a circuit to travel. They've got 6 to jump. and Hit and Run has come back to the field now as Ebal, the Imperial Cup winner, gets closer on the outside and now takes it up. 3 lengths away then Docklands Limo, followed by Ferrers. 2 further back as Borrow Sovereign from the French Furs, a gap to Deep Water, followed by St Piran, about 12 lengths off the pace here from Milligan as they come to the 4th. Further back in the field then behind Milligan, and going forward is Super Nomad, making significant progress, followed then by St Piran and Fondmore from Bat's Wing and Rooster Booster, Copeland, Lowerhick. A long gap in the field then to Supreme Fortune as they head towards the 5th. Losing ground is Casala, dropping right out as the leaders go over flight number 5. Dane Gold is second last, and last is Mini Bet. Continuing their journey down the back now towards flight number 6. Ebal on the near side, Hit and Run right over on the far side. Ferrers is just behind them. They're 4 or 5 lengths in front of the chasing pack. And Milligan wasn't too fluent at that, dropping right out as Supreme Fortune. Ebal, though, is the leader by 3 lengths, Hit and Run. Docklands Limo in 3rd, followed then by Ferrers as they prepare to leave the back. Further back in the field then is Deep Water at this stage. St Piran just ahead of that one from Bat's Wing. Well back in the field too is Borrow Sovereign, being passed by Copeland, who's making some ground from Fondmore. As they race down towards the entrance to the home straight, it's Ebal who leads, from in second Docklands Limo. They're followed by St Piran and Ferrers, and just behind them Bat's Wing. On the inside next is Copeland as they round the corner and straighten up for the judge. 3 flights left to jump in the home straight, and there's Rooster Booster giving them about 12 lengths start as they head into the home straight now, and Ebal is kicked away by 3 or 4 lengths. 2 in second, battling on Docklands Limo as they clear 3 out. Further back St Piran has made some ground, followed by Bat's Wing, who's run into 4th from Ferrers, but they've got 2 flights left to jump in the opener on Grand National Day, and it's Ebal the far side, Docklands Limo the near side. They come to the second last almost together, 4 or 5 lengths to Bat's Wing, followed by St Piran. Behind them is Copeland and then Ferrers. Well back in the field then Deep Water has been pulled up. 1 left to jump, Ebal the far side, Docklands Limo the near side. They come towards it together. Ebal crashed through the top of it but landed full of running from Docklands Limo, who's trying to raise an effort on the near side. They're clear of Bat's Wing, racing up with 100 yards to go. Ebal showing plenty of courage but being grabbed all the while by Docklands Limo. Docklands Limo finding a little bit extra in the conditions for Carl Llewellyn, and Docklands Limo is going to get up and win the opener on Grand National Day. Docklands Limo, ridden by Carl Llewellyn, is the winner. Second Ebal, third then is Bat's Wing. A gap then to St Piran, followed by Copeland, Lowerhick. Then the French Furs behind them from Borrow Sovereign, followed by Ferrers, then Milligan, and the others have been pulled up. The winner, there's the winning jockey, Carl Llewellyn, who's attempting to win his 3rd Grand National later today on Bow. The winner, 15 Docklands Limo, owned by John Marks, trained by Nigel Twiston Davis, ridden by Carl Llewellyn. Second is number 11, Ebal, owned by Tony Hayward and Barry Fulton, trained by Dina Smith and ridden by Ben Hitchcock. And third, number 19, which is Bat's Wing, owned by Ashley Carr, trained by Brian Ellison, ridden by Dean Gallagher. 4th, St Piran. The winner, though, Docklands Limo, has put up an outstanding staying performance in 20-1 winner, Docklands Limo, putting up a performance, a quite extraordinary performance in these conditions. Real stamina required today.
Well, I know it didn't work, but young Tom Scudamore did a typical thing that his father and Martin Pipe started years ago. He stole ground. They're all playing, look, behind them, don't want to go, don't want to go. Tom says, let's get on with this race. He steals 5 lengths from the eventual second, but look at the bulk of the crowd behind him. Now, OK, the horse wasn't good enough in the end, but he got valuable ground for nothing there. Let's pick it up when we get into the closing stages, where you thought your horse in second here, Skew, would not get home.
Yeah, a lot of the time he hasn't get home. It's amazing that he goes and gets home in this heavier ground. I think to be fair to horses, I think a lot of time we criticise them for not quickening up when they can't quicken up. I mean, Ibal has run out of steam here. Just on 2 points that come to mind here is that Carl Llewellyn, I think, is riding as well as he's ever ridden. I mean, he is a quite excellent stable jockey. I know it's easy for me to say that, but it would also be quite easy for me to keep quiet. He's strong. What he does more than anything else, he rides with his head. He knows that the horse doesn't quite get home, hasn't jumped the last all that well, but he's hung on to him till very late and ridden a very, very strong finish. The other point is, I've been going on all week about Beau not wanting the ground, and I am worried about the ground, but I do feel that we've had Earth Summit win a national in heavy ground. This has proved my point again when sometimes I was worried about him getting home on this ground, that for whatever reason our horses are very often suited by the heavy ground, so that gives me a bit of a boost towards Beau.
And I think it's a positive thing, Jim, the fact the horses seem to have gone through this sloppy ground well.
Yes, they are getting through it pretty well. Distances a length and 3/4 and 17. And let's check the SP now for the Cordon Bleu handicap hurdle, our opener. Look at Docklands Limo's dividend on the tote, 34.60 for a win. 20 to 1 though with the books. Second number 11 Ebal, 6 to 1 favourite. Third number 19 Bat Swing at 9 to 1, and fourth number 8 St Piran at 8 to 1. 19 ran.
My tip at the National is Beau.
Mine's Earth Mover.
They've been working hard, but the fences are prepared and they're ready for the 2001 Grand National. But now the walk of shame beckons for another member of our racing team. Yes, it's time to whittle them down to just 2. Here's round 3 of the Grand National weakest link. Here's that scary woman again. Richard made a dramatic exit from round 2, despite being the strongest link. Some revenge voting from Claire, perhaps. Well, now to the third round. Once again, 2 minutes on the clock, and because you voted off the strongest link, I will start with the strongest link from the previous round, and that's you, Claire. Time starts now. Claire, Jenny Pittman trained Corbière and Royal Athlete to win the race, but what was the name of her final runner in 1999?
Northern Lad.
Yes, Scoo. Name the Hollywood film legend who had 3 runners in the race during the 1960s. Gregory Peck. Angus, when was the race first televised in full?
1950.
1960. Claire, what was the secret of Grundon's success in the snow in 1901?
That no one could see him?
No, trainer put butter in his hoofs to stop the snow packing like ice in the shoe. Scoo, Geraldine Rees became the first woman to finish the national riding Cheers in 1982, but who finished last on the same horse the previous year?
A chap called Scudamore.
Correct. Angus, Aintree has one of the shortest 9-hole golf courses in the UK. True or false?
False.
False, yes, it's one of the largest. Claire, to the nearest 1,000, what was the crowd on Grand National Day last year? 60,000. Scoo, which country is taking live coverage of the race for the first time this year?
China.
Correct. Angus, how many toilets are there at the Aintree Golf Course?
Aintree Golf
Sorry. How many toilets are there at Aintree Racecourse?
238.
Wrong. Claire, who rode Echenesse to victory in the race that never was?
John White.
Correct. Scoo, which runner last year was named after a Bruce Springsteen album?
Pass.
Lucky Town. Angus, who finished top jockey at last year's Grand National meeting?
Tony McCoy.
Norman Williamson. Claire, who was the aptly named jockey who won on Reynoldstown in 1935?
I do know this.
Frank Furlong. Scoo, who said this was the best 12 minutes of my life? Sex is an anticlimax after
Fitzgerald.
this. Correct. Angus, champion jockey Tony McCoy has yet to finish in 5 attempts. True or false?
True.
Correct. Claire, trainer Toby Balding won the race 20 years apart. Name the 2 horses.
Highland Wedding and Little Pulvia.
Correct. Scoo, Ginger McCain famously trained Red Rum to win 3 times, but can you name one of his entries this year?
Hanneken.
Yes, and Amberley House. Angus, who owns last year's winner Papillon? Out of time. Well, that round wasn't your best. You banked £60 for a total of £145 for charity. But now, whose girths are loose? Who's blowing hard and needs to be pulled up? It's time to vote off the weakest link.
In that round, Skew was the strongest link, but Angus banked the most money. Maybe Claire's just skating on thin ice. Let's see how they voted.
Skew.
Skew, I'm afraid.
I could accept only one, but it doesn't seem worth it somehow, Skoo. So, why did you vote for Skoo, Angus?
I was perhaps the weakest link there, but you can't vote for yourself in this.
Skoo was the strongest link in that round, but it was a tactical vote, and I'm afraid Skoo, with 2 votes, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Sorry.
Oh, Skew, that just wasn't fair. I mean, Nigel Twiston-Davies says you haven't seen a horse for 3 days, you've been swatting like hell. You were clearly the best in that round, they picked on you. Who do you think's going to win now?
Very close. Claire's got all the brains, and she's boss. Yeah, Angus has done well. Angus has very difficult questions. It's very close. It'll be down to how the questions are thrown.
So, as expected, the 2 favourites are through to the final, and Claire and Angus will be head-to-head following our next race here at Aintree. And just a reminder that all the money raised on the weakest link will be going to help the farmers. But now back to the National, and many people say that a good big un always beats a good little un. Well, Noble Lord, one of the smallest in the field, will be hoping to prove them wrong today. Claire, she's had a busy week because she's been down to visit Noble Lord and Richard Phillips, a man of many parts who's now finally being recognised as a top trainer.
The pace is fast at Jackdaws Castle, and it has to be because Richard Phillips hasn't got long to make the most of it. Having moved in at the start of the season, the yard was then sold, and Phillips has to be out by the end of May. Dejected? Never.
I think we're in quite a lucky position anyway. We've got some lovely young horses that hopefully we'll be taking somewhere with us. So, yeah, I mean, it's a worry, and there's been a lot of effort gone into trying to find a new place, but we're still working on it, as I keep on telling people. But obviously, when you're a trainer, what you want is good horses running in good races. If you've got horses competing at the top, then people think you're a top trainer.
Don't you think you are?
Well, I am. Convincing everyone else.
That's very true. Which is why you decided to stop doing the other things you're good at, i.e. impersonations, after dinner speeches, comedy, because that was somehow distracting people from what you wanted them to see you as.
It was used, to be fair to say, because when I first started training, I had to financially, because I just couldn't train without it. In a way, it was subsidising my owners, to be truthful, and so I had to do it.
Now with me now, Frankie Dettori. Every housewife's favourite. Now with me, great year 1994 Lock Song.
Yeah, she absolutely brilliant. She make me proud to be English.
Did you actually enjoy, if you're standing up there and performing, did you feel like a stand-up comic? Did you enjoy it?
Hate it.
Hate it? Why?
Oh, yes. I'd be more nervous about that than I would be nervous about having a favourite in the Grand National. And most people who do it would know what I was on about. The pressure making people laugh is a dreadful thing.
Well, basically, he's going out there today to do his best, and it's not easy, It's easier to ride than it is to speak, anyway.
But beneath the comedy lies a very deep, dark soul.
Beneath the comedy lies a very, very good trainer.
Can you get that on camera?
Yeah, could you say that again?
Well, I certainly understand that people said, Richard will always imitate a good trainer, because it was an easy line for them to use, because he was such a very good mimic. But he also is a very, very fine trainer. I think Noble Lord typifies that. When I first saw Noble Lord, I thought, he's a tiny little pony, he'll never jump a fence. Richard always said, this horse will stay forever, he'll jump any fence you put in front of him, and he is a national horse. And he's been proved right. The proof of the pudding is that Richard has trained this horse and many others to fine performances, and with limited amount of resources, he can deliver.
And trainer Richard Phillips, who had a double yesterday at Ludlow, is going to have another winner here with Noble Lord, who's defying top weight in tremendous style as he comes up towards the line. Noble Lord wins impressively the New Year Handicap chase.
It's just so small, I mean, next to Mighty Moss, he looks, minute.
So I keep on telling myself Red Run wasn't very big.
No, that's true.
Whether I'll be telling myself that on Saturday evenings, another matter.
Oh, you'll still say that. Red Run wasn't very big, but it just will be completely irrelevant.
Absolutely. I was actually at Frankie Dettori's birthday party, and Lester was there, and of course he's my great hero in life, as he is most people's. And Lester and I were chatting away, and I said, Lester, you look really well. He said, yeah, I've been away in Australia, I said, oh yeah. He said, I was out there with Peter Scudamore. I said, oh yeah. He ain't got a lot to say for himself, has he?
I don't think Skew will like that very much, the fact that he hasn't got a lot to say for himself, condemned by Lester Piggott. I think you'll recognise the man next to me, Alex Ferguson. We'll talk to him in just a second. Just to let you know, news on the Grand National, Mick Fitzgerald, his shoulder injury has recurred. He picked this up at Ascot last week. He is not going to ride again this afternoon. You can see him there covered in mud. He was meant to ride Esprit de Cotte in the Grand National. He will not take that ride. He will not ride again this afternoon. The doctor is talking to him now, and he's actually holding his shoulder. You can see the great big bump there on his left shoulder where he broke his collarbone before, and that is obviously still very, very sore. But they are they're a very tough lot, these jockeys, but there's absolutely no point. The rain and the cold certainly doesn't help an injury like this. They're a very, very tough bunch, aren't they?
Yeah, I wish I had them.
Exactly, if all your players were like that, could play through injuries, you'd have no trouble.
Yeah.
How are things going for you? That was a bit of a shocker, the late winner for Bayern Munich the other night.
Yeah, it was a disappointment. I'd have been very happy if it 0-0 because I would have fancied ourselves over there. But now it's a different picture.
Now, what about today for you here? It's a real day off. You love it here.
Yes, well, we've got a game on Tuesday, and it only took me 35 minutes to come from the training ground. So it's a pity the weather, but it's a shame.
Were you actually training this morning then?
Yes, we trained this morning. Yeah.
You've done your day's work already?
We have done our day's work, yeah.
You've also been studying the form now, so what do you think about the Grand National?
Well, I think that you can't discount Bo because of his class. Papillon come across, he must fancy it. But I've gone for Ines Clara.
Who's just switched to Venetia Williams's yard.
Yes. I think the ground and you need to finish must have a chance.
Well, a lot of people have followed you, or it was your money, because the horse has been absolutely slashed in price.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, I think it was 20 to 1, but it was 50 to 1 yesterday,
Now, you must be glued to the television, because you're a sports fan right across the board, aren't you? It's not just racing and football.
No, yeah, but I was watching the golf last night. I thought it was fantastic. When you see the weather there, it makes you envious. But Tiger Woods, he's a class apart.
And do you think you can tell with athletes, with golfers, with footballers, with jockeys and horses, that some just are a different type of animal?
Well, I think that people like Tiger Woods, and there's been great sportsmen over the years, Muhammad Ali, they've got something special about them. Not just the ability to win, but knowing how to win, and that determination that they have. And it's in their eyes, sometimes. You see in their eyes. And great sportsmen are always miles apart from everyone else.
It's almost like they can flick a switch and they just focus. They're suddenly in competition mode and nothing else gets to them.
Well, their whole life, it's an obsession in a way, because they think for the minute they get into competition it's about winning, getting to the winning post in front of everyone else. So their focus is on that alone. And everything else is a distraction.
But for you now, you've learnt to enjoy the distractions. You can still flick the switch and concentrate when you have to, but you have more fun away from the game.
Yeah, but I'm older than them. But no, I found a release in the last 3 or 4 years in the race, and I found it great therapy for me. My job is like everyone else in the management job. It's a difficult job because you have to deal with many things. The media, in particular today, is very exhausting. So you have to find a release from that. And the racing has got that for me.
Well, we love having you here, and I'm glad
Thanks
you came
a lot,
to
Claire.
talk to us. I hope it wasn't too much of a strain.
One or the other media.
Exactly, sorry about that. But just one quick line about Bayern Munich going back out there. Do you think you can turn that around?
Oh yeah, a goal will change it. We've got the ability to do that, and obviously I think probably the pitch and everything else will suit us over there.
Well, good luck to you then, and good luck with Inniscarra this afternoon.
Thanks a lot. Well done.
Well, now to another of the lovely stories surrounding this year's Grand National. Moral Support is one of the favourites, owned by Tom and Evelyn Yates, but in fact a few years ago was picked out by their 2-year-old granddaughter Jessica, and he's been a huge favourite with the family ever since. He's trained by one of the great characters in racing, Charlie Mann, and Jonathan Powell has been to meet them.
I think he's got every chance. He's got everything that I would want. He may lack a bit of speed early on in the race, but he stays, he jumps. He's a lot better than anything I've ever rode. I'd have given my left arm to have ridden a horse like this in the National in my day, but that wasn't to be.
Moral Support's jockey Noel Feely is enjoying by far the best season of his brief career.
The first national for you, a first for the horse, who's been in great form all season. How excited are you becoming about it?
The more it's coming closer now, the more I'm getting excited about it, and I think he's coming back to his best as well, which makes it really good, you know. I think he's probably as well as he was now before the rehearsal or the Welsh National, you know. So I think he's back to his best, and he's well weighted, so he'll have a chance.
In his days as a jockey, Charlie Mann's interest in the Grand National was usually brutally brief.
Over the first, and the leaders have jumped it safely, but Lucky Roo is a faller towards the back.
The last horse I rode, and it was a horse called Lucky Roo, and I remember sitting on it and going up to look at the first fence, and this horse was so small and he actually looked up at the first fence, and I was terrified, to be honest, and luckily he actually fell at the first fence and I got up laughing my head off.
What was the nearest you got to completing, shall we say?
I definitely would have 1 year. 1 year I rode a horse called W again, and he was in front on the second circuit. He got brought down by a loose horse, and I say he wanted a circuit to run, but he was a great ride. I was half cut when I rode him, and he gave me a super ride, I must say.
You were half cut, so you were in the bar beforehand?
I was in a sauna with about 3 bottles of champagne, Gavin Ragg, and we got so drunk we couldn't find the race course from Philadelphia on the morning. It was fantastic. It was very good fun, and it was a great experience, yeah.
Success as a trainer has provided Charlie Mann with a lifestyle that would have been unimaginable a few years ago.
At one stage I had 7 houses in Lamble, and I think I was claiming tax relief on probably all of them. And one day I filled in a tax return and I couldn't remember which house I was meant to be living in, so they caught up with me fairly quickly, and I had to sell all the houses to pay off the tax, and it left me with a big hole in my pocket, actually.
It was a void he has filled with an ever-increasing stream of winners in recent seasons.
Jock's Cross coming home strongly, is not going to get up, and it's Moral Support who goes on the win for Noel Feely by 5 lengths.
Trainer, horse and jockey clearly have the winning habit, but Moral Support's owner can't believe the stroke of fate that brought them together.
We got invited to Charlie Jab last September, and to an open day. I've never been to a stables in my life. I didn't realise that the real purpose of these things was, probably to try and sell horses. You're a baby. Now, but I made a mistake that day. I brought my wife and my granddaughter with me, and of course we come in to look at the horses, and you can see how friendly he is. This big boy just leaned over this stable. In fact, he leaned over, nuzzled my granddaughter, and all of a sudden, the chequebook was out, and we had to buy a horse. And what a buy has been for us. But, it probably is a fairy tale. You buy a horse because your granddaughter likes it. You couldn't care if it's 3, 4 or 5 legs, and then before you know it, as I say, you're running in the Grand National. Just to be there is fantastic. To win it would be just something else.
And they're all here to cheer moral support on his big day. There's young Jessica, just 2.5, and the trainer there, Charlie Mann, as well, all here to cheer on moral support. And Jessica's proudly wearing the name of her favourite family pet. Let's hope it's a happy afternoon.
Well, down here in the paddock, the jockeys are just getting mounted for this Novice Chase, our next live race. This is a cracking race, it really is. And this is a pointer to good horses for the future. It was won last year by Senkos, the year before by Flagship Uberales, and by Direct Route the year before that. So let's have a look at the lineup for the Martel Maghill Novices Chase. It's a Grade 1.
Number 1 is Ballinclay King, Adrian Maguire. 2, Corniche, Carl Llewellyn. Number 3 is Sandy Nuff, Jimmy McCarthy. 4, Simply Gifted, Russ Garrity. Number 5, Tinoco, Seamus Durack. He'll be wearing those colours a bit later on the last fling. Number 6 is In Antique Now, Richard Johnson, who replaces Mick Fitzgerald, who won't ride for the rest of the day. Number 7 is Witenzo, Joe Tizard. So all 7 go. I should say, yes, all 7 go in this Martel and Maghill Novices Chase. Let's have a look at the betting with Angus.
Witenzo here is favourite at 6 to 4. Opened 11 to 8, went out to 13 to 8, but the punters have supported this. Much stronger market, and there's a couple of horses here that are very interesting, particularly Simply Gifted, 20s into 14s. Ballinclay King is a 6 chance, having opened at 7s, with In Antique and Tinoco both 9 to 2 and Drifted, and Sandy Duff is the outsider. This Witenzo then strong favourite. Simply Gifted is the outsider that there's been support for. And it was interesting that Sir Alex Ferguson there was talking about Inishkara, because I can't remember ever a horse being supported like that one was yesterday in the build-up to the race. It was put up on 1 or 2 tipping lines. Henry Rick supported it. He's got a big, strong following, and it was back down and then to the price-wise in the Racing Post today, compounded it 12 to 1 from 66 to 1 within 24 hours. There'll be a few punters who got good prices on that one this morning. It'll love the conditions, and that seems to be the sort of outsider that's caught the imagination of the punters.
Well, Paul Nicholls has 2 of the really well-fancied horses in this race, Witenzo and In Antique. Which one do we go for?
On the ground, I would say Witenzo. You're going to need a horse that stays well. He acts on this ground, he gets 2.5, and that will be a big plus.
And you've had a very late jockey change on In Antique, so have you quickly given instructions to Richard Johnson?
Yeah, just take his time. I mean, he may be doubtful to get the trip in this ground. He's a horse with loads of speed. A normal year, good ground would have suited him round here, so he's going to have to take his time. But he's a decent horse in his own right. But I think Witenzo in this ground would probably one they've all got to beat.
And you've just got the one to saddle this year in the Grand National. It's Earth Mover. He'll cope with this.
That's right, he'll love the ground, and he's just got to get his jumping together. If he jumps and gets into a rhythm, he'll run well. And perhaps a slower ground, Joe will be able to take his time, may well help him.
Well, good luck to you later, but first of all, let's let you win this.
Yeah, thanks very much, Claire.
Certainly doesn't need an umbrella with a peak cap like that. Now, these are the colours of Graham Roach. Perhaps we were unlucky for him in the first with St Piran, but this horse, In Antique, lovely horse. Sadly, he's a bit keen, and he fell at the very first fence last time he ran, but prior to that, he was quite impressive. I know they think a lot of him at home. He's won at Kempton Park in soft ground, beat Mr Percy and Neck. That wasn't a bad run. And he's won in very soft ground skew in France. But, of course, he's doubly handed here, isn't he? He's got Witenzo as well.
Yeah, there's Witenzo's colours. I saw this horse win at this horse win at Taunton. There he is, just coming out under Joe Tizard. We had the second horse that day who runs again today, Corniche, and one of the owners came up to me and said, "You've just been rude about my horse on television," and I did realise that I wasn't on television that day, and often as I am, unfortunately, not meaning to be rude about people's horses, I knew that the owner, or one of the part owners, had got it wrong this time. So I'm going to be very polite about Witenzo this afternoon. Although he only just won at Fontwell, dropped back to 2 mile, he does look a very good horse, and I think he will run a very big race.
Yes, I think he'll get the trip well in this ground. Now, we've got plenty of others with a chance, and Trevor Hemmings, who has got 2 chances in the Martel National itself has Tinoco here. I love this horse. He's by Tinoso. He looked a real good horse when he was young, had a sort of flat patch, and then he's come back. He's won his last 2 chases now. I do like him by Tinosos. They'll go in this ground, although it's difficult to know. Once it gets as sloppy as this, it does just change things slightly. But Tinoco, nice horse. Seamus Durack in the saddle, 9-2 from 4-1.
You probably mentioned that's Last Fling's colours, isn't it? I saw this Tinoco winner, Bumpered Air. He was very impressive.
Well,
yeah,
King is one we want to say, Skew, because
he hesitated at start one day. He's got his own way about racing, but if he puts it together, he's a very, very decent horse. It'll just be interesting to see how Adrian rides him. Corniche in the same colours as Docklands Limo, who won the opening race. This horse, similar to Docklands Limo in some cases, in many ways. I said Docklands Limo doesn't quite get home sometimes. Corniche is the same. Very fast horse at home. Lovely looking horse, a delightful horse. I just feel he's one of those horses that will continue improving as he gets older. I'm not quite sure what his best trip is. I saw him run around Haydock one day, and he was second to a decent horse of Venetia Williams, as usual. The name escapes, Crocodile, and he really ran on that day. That was over 2 miles, sorry, but he really ran on that day.
But Skew, you've been beaten 25 lengths by Witenzo at Taunton in very heavy conditions. How can you possibly turn that round?
He was 4-7 favourite that day to beat him. So, according to the bookmakers beforehand, that was wrong. But let's see what the bookmakers are saying now. You live in hope.
Let's catch up on the market then.
Witenzo is the favourite at 6-4, and that would be a generous price considering what I can see behind me. Most firms going shorter. 5-4 would be round about the price that I would be returning it now, possibly 11-8. In Antique is 9-2. Tinoco is a 5's chance. Ballinclay King, they back that one from 7s, 13-2 into 6s. And amongst those in the bar prices, it's 12-1 bar. Well, 12-1 would be a very fair price. This Simply Gifted. Just mentioning there that it was done at 20s. That is the top price now at the moment, 12-1. Without doubt, the most popular of the bigger priced horses. Good market this, with Tenzo 6-4 favourite. Simply Gifted, the interesting outsider, 12s from 20s.
Yes, that is fascinating, that gamble. Ballinclay King, you know, Ferdy Murphy said this was a champion, but he hasn't quite lived up to it this year.
Yeah, well, as I was saying, well, you know, we missed the shot of him, but he does look to have his own way of running at the moment. But that can all change, and Adrian, I've watched him, he really nurses his horse round sometimes. I'm a great admirer of Adrian's riding.
Well, Sandy Duff runs in the colours of Lord Carnarvon, a rare jumper.
I saw this horse absolutely bolted at Ludlow. That was on quite good ground, I think. Just checking here. Yes, that was. No, I was wrong. It's soft. Absolutely bolted in that day, and I would say he hasn't quite built his potential. I suppose it's not an ideal situation to see him there, but he is a beautiful horse. You know, with a rein on his neck and something, his coat's not showing up all that well. He's by Scottish Reel out of a Ballinger mare.
Well, we've only one more to see, and it's an important one, because this is the horse they've backed now, Simply Gifted. Now, he has come down leaps and bounds, 20s to 12-1 Skew from Tim Easterby's yard.
Tim Easterby had a winner yesterday when I said it couldn't possibly win, Garuth. This is a very handy horse. Has the potential. He was a good hurdler, has the potential to reach the top of a fence. He's got the blinkers on today. 12-1 from 14-1, as you say. Wouldn't surprise me at all if this won, and as I said, Garuth winning yesterday ensured that Tim Easterby's horses are in good form.
His wins have all been in soft ground, but we've gone beyond that now. This is the thing we saw.
It's funny, you know, you say we've gone beyond it. Is it helping horses that it's so soft? You know, it's opened the ground up altogether. But anyway, those are my wise words, Jim. Let's listen to yours.
Thanks, Skew. They're under orders and they're racing. 2 miles a trip, jumping a total of 12 fences, and Corniche the first to begin on the far side from Witenzo in the centre, but a mighty leap out wider there. Seamus Durack, mistake there by In Antique at the first. Just looking back to see In Antique, recovered okay and is now on the outside last as they swing into the home straight now. Corniche takes it up from in second Tinoco, who put in that mighty leap at the first. Then over on the far side is Witenzo. A gap to Sandy Duff, followed then by Ballinclay King as they come to the second. Corniche almost over pitched there, but got away with it. Well back in the field is Simply Gifted, giving them a start in company with In Antique. heading up to the first of the ditches. On the far side as we change camera angle, Tinoco led over it. Gets over it from in the centre with Tenzo. Then on the near side as we look at them, on the right of picture in the yellow jacket, Corniche, and just in behind them is Ballinclay King as they head up now towards what is fence number 4. Tinoco on the left. On the right is Corniche, in the centre with Tenzo. They all clear it well, 3 or 4 lengths to Simply Gifted. Followed then by Sandy Duff and Ballinclay King, and a gap of 3 lengths to In Antique, who trails the field as they go out now with just under a circuit remaining. And Corniche out in front here, leads by a length and a half as they head into the back, ridden by Carl Llewellyn, who had the first winner, and also rides Beau, the top weight in the Grand National, the big one, later on this afternoon. And then second is Watenzo, Joe Tizard, who will be aboard Earth Mover. Then on the outside, Seamus Durack moving up on Tinoco. He'll be wearing those colours on the last fling in the big one as they head now towards fence number 5. Tinoco getting wide, as he has been throughout. Will clear it okay. Watenzo, oh, and he's down there, Tinoco. Tinoco has overpitched there. Tinoco has overpitched, just disappearing from the screen, but unfortunately has taken a tumble as they come to the second. Down the back, and Simply Gifted makes a bad mistake. Just looking back, horse is up on his feet, Tinoco, and Seamus Durack appears to be okay. Heading down the back now to the open ditch, and over pitching there. A bad mistake too, back in the field there by In Antique. In Antique, a bad mistake, but they've survived. On the near side, Corniche, Ballinclay King goes up on the outside. Simply Gifted not jumping well. Behind them is Watenzo, and almost walking over at Sandy Duff as they prepare to leave the back. Ballinclay King with Simply Gifted, who hasn't been jumping well but gets up on the inside of the leader. A length and a half then to Watenzo leaving the back, followed then by Corniche. A long gap in the field then to In Antique, and Sandy Duff has tailed off. Coming now towards 4 out, and Simply Gifted on the bridle comes towards it, jumps it well from Ballinclay King, jumping up on the inside with Tenzo into third. A gap then to Corniche, who's run his race, and a long gap then behind them. Struggling on is In Antique. Into the home straight now. They've got 3 fences left to jump in this Martel McGill Novices chase, and Simply Gifted the far side, revelling in the conditions. 2 lengths to Watenzo moving up. Also on the near side is Ballinclay King. They come towards 3 out. Simply Gifted wasn't too fluent at it, but landed safely. From in the centre, Watenzo on the near side, Ballinclay King. A long gap then to Corniche. 2 left to jump. The last of the ditches coming up. Watenzo, the favourite, just gets ahead in front in the centre. Coming towards it now, jumps it well from Ballinclay King, who went right through the top of it. In Antique has been pulled up behind them. Battling on is Simply Gifted. They've got 1 left to jump now, and it's Watenzo who forges into a clear lead from Ballinclay King, who's now coming at him hard. 1 left to jump now, and on the far side, Watenzo. The near side is Ballinclay King. Behind them is Simply Gifted, trying to raise another effort. Coming towards the last now, Ballinclay King out, jumped by Watenzo. Watenzo responding to Joe Tizard on the far side, is 2 in front. Now Ballinclay King, galvanised by Adrian Maguire, is coming home like a train. Ballinclay King out on the far side, Watenzo, stride for stride, they're going to hit the line, absolutely locked together. Ballinclay King has got up to win it by a nostril from Watenzo. In third then is Simply Gifted, followed by Corniche, and they are the only finishers. Sandy Duff has been pulled up. Well, what a confidence booster for Adrian Maguire, who rides Paddy's Return later on today. Just getting up in the last couple of strides from Ballinclay King, on Ballinclay King, trained by Ferdy Murphy, owned by I Guys, B Leatherday and NL Spence. And look at this for a finish. First number 1 is official now. Ballinclay King getting up for Adrian Maguire. From number 7, Watenzo, owned by Malcolm Pearce and Jerry Measle, trained by Paul Nichols, ridden by Joe Tizard. Third, number 4, Simply Gifted, owned by Steve Hammond, trained by Timmy's to be ridden by Russ Garrity. And here we have them crossing the line. Look at that, by a head. On the near side, Ballinclay King at 6 to 1. It's official now. Ballinclay King is the winner. Second, number 7, Watenzo. 6 to 4 favourite. Third, Simply Gifted. Adrian Maguire, what a ride that was.
They weren't going too fast down the back when Tinoco went. There he is on the far side. Look at the left of your picture. Seamus Durack here just touches the top and then lands a bit steep. Skew can't get that undercarriage out.
I tell you, as a jockey, you know, that's just an unlucky fall, isn't it? He hasn't done much wrong. It's just one of those falls. You know, I can't stress enough that although we worry about the soft ground, it is so much easier for horses to fall on this ground.
Absolutely.
You saw them sliding away there.
Yeah.
I'm not very often right, but I'm pleased to say how clever I was before racing here to say, you know, what a great rider Adrian Maguire is. He has been brilliant on this horse. You know, he's obviously a decent horse. I don't want to tempt Ferdy Murphy having a go at me, but I just wonder how genuine he is, this horse, sometimes. He looks to put his head up a little bit towards the end of the race here. You know, he's got to the front here, and he goes a bit left, he just pops. You see Adrian about halfway up the running. He has to pull him again straight. He's just, I mean, he may be running away from the stick a little bit. You might say that Watenzo is racing in the worst ground there. Perhaps Ballinaclay King is just clever enough to look for the better ground. But you just wonder there whether he was going to go through it, and all of a sudden, the galvanisation of Adrian Maguire, he's got him up on the line. But he's a horse of undoubted ability. You just watch here, Richard, there, look, you see him just go off the straight line and how quick Adrian was to straighten him up. He's a very fine rider.
I do think Joe got the worst of the ground on the inside there, but you've got to say the lead changed at least 4 times since the second last. It was what it's all about. And I totally agree with you. The wet ground now is so much safer for the horses than firm.
Adrian Maguire, who has had 4 rides in the National, completed the course each time. He's had a 3rd and a 4th. He rides Paddy to Return. The winner number 1, Ballinaclay King at 6 to 1. Second number 7, Watenzo at 6 to 4 and favourite. And third number 4, Simply Gifted at 14 to 1.
My tip for the National this year is moral support.
Well, I'm sure most of the trainers will be saying a few prayers this afternoon, particularly in these conditions here today. Very, very difficult here at Aintree. But of course, even the rain isn't going to spoil this great occasion, and the next big occasion isn't far away either. It's only 2 months to the Derby, and then following that it's Royal Ascot. Of course, you'll be able to see both on BBC television. Yes, confirmation that you'll be able to see the Derby on Grandstand. That's June the 9th. But now it is time to find out who is the strongest link on the BBC racing team. It went down to the 2 favourites. It's Claire versus Angus. So back we go to Charlie Brooks' pub, the Pheasant, just outside Lambourne, for the final round of the weakest link. For the second round in a row, the team has voted off the strongest link. Just Angus and Claire remain, but who will win? So that means that you've won a total of £145 for charity. But now there can only be one winner who will have the right to boast to the rest of the team on a daily basis for the rest of the year. In this final round, you can win £100 for every question that you get right. You go head to head. I'll ask alternate questions. It will be the best of 3. But in the last 2 rounds, you voted off the strongest links. Angus, you have never been the strongest link. Claire, you have once, so you have the choice whether you will answer questions first or second.
I think I'll go first, please.
Okay, question 1. In what year was Red Rum born?
$1965.
Correct. Angus, whose routine on the morning of the National included a mid-morning sweat, a glass of champagne and a trip to the church?
I haven't got a clue.
It's Richard Pittman. Not sure why he was going to church.
It never worked.
Claire, your second question. Which horse holds the national record time of 8 minutes 47.8 seconds?
Mr. Frisk.
Yes, the winner in 1990. You have 2 right. Angus, you need this question right. What was special about the 1915 national winner, Ali Sloper? First to be owned by a woman, Lady Nelson. So, Angus, that means that you cannot win. Claire, you are the strongest link. You've won £345 for charity. We'll round that up to £1,000. Claire, what is your chosen charity?
Well, Richard Pittman's wanting me to give it to him, but I think instead I'll give it to the Agricultural Benevolent Institution to help out the farmers, because they need it more than anyone right now.
Yes! So, girl power rules here. Claire is the strongest link. Angus, you leave with nothing. Thank you for watching the Grand National Weakest Link. Bye-bye.
I thought they were tough questions, but, I mean, that's part of the game and it's part of the draw, and Claire answered her questions. I thought she did well to work back to Red Rum's age of birth. I thought it was a good answer and she deserved it.
I'm just worried that Richard might have taken it a bit personally, and it might take me a rather long time to work my way back into his good books if I was ever in them in the first place.
And here is the strongest link. Congratulations. Oh, no. But have you had some stick from the team since then?
Oh, I've had lots of stick from the boys. But the extraordinary thing is, round here, you know, normally people stop you and say, what's going to win the Grand National? I was just coming out the paddock and this lady came up and said, who wins the weakest link? I can't believe it. Everybody's been watching it and following it. And Alex Ferguson was watching one of the earlier rounds and just absolutely dying laughing. I think
he knew most of the answers, though, didn't he?
But he loved Angus's face throughout it. So, you know, the picture of concentration, it was really good fun.
A bit nerve-wracking, I would have thought.
It was very nerve-wracking with you in those glasses. Absolutely terrifying.
I know, and I've developed this knot now, I've noticed, throughout the afternoon. It must have come with the glasses.
I think the impression's rather too good, because I'd rather work with you than the other one.
I don't know, most people are scared of me around here for all of a sudden, but it was a tremendous effort from you, and of course the money going to help the farmers is so good for racing as well.
I'm just sorry we didn't raise more. If in the first round, if the other guys had realised that you are meant to bank the money, I think we could have doubled it.
OK, well, guess what? I may not have the glasses, but I've got another question for you. Nick Fitzgerald, he won't be riding in the National. What's the news about Esprit de Corps?
Well, the news is that Paul Flynn gets the ride, but Paul, if you're watching the television, then please turn up at the racecourse, because they've been putting out calls for him on the tannoy. He's nowhere to be seen. They've left a message for him on his mobile. Paul Flynn rides Esprit de Corps, but he doesn't know it yet.
Oh, dear. So if he is watching, do hurry up and get here quick. Now, Claire, what about your pick? I know I sort of picked your brains a bit yesterday for who I might put my money on, and I've gone for Moral Support, who you said would like the ground, but who do you particularly fancy?
Well, I think Edmund will run a big race on this ground, but that's very unoriginal. Everybody agrees with that. I actually got on the phone this morning and was doing a massive spread bet, so I'm going to lose a fortune, because I was suddenly selling all these horses that I just don't think will get round, and I actually sort of started to change my mind about Edmund, because I can only see about 6 horses finishing, so I was looking for a long shot, and if I was going to back a long shot, and I already have done each way, it's Village King. I saw Philip Hobbs yesterday. He's having a great festival, he's having lots of winners, and he's not normally positive about his horses, and I stopped him and said, look, would I be totally mad to tip Village King on the preview programme last night? He said, no, I really fancy the horse. Fantastic, well, you can't get better than that, and he's around about 33 to 1, so perfect each way price.
Well, you mentioned Edmund there. You gave Richard Johnson a bit of a hard time on the preview programme last night, saying he has never got round, but he's got a great chance.
He did win the John Hughes Chase there yesterday, and I think he now knows his way around those fences. He's a very good jockey. He was really relaxed actually last night, and I think he's got a great chance. He knows he's on a decent horse there, and that's the thing. You've just got to hunt them around the first circuit, try and still be in there. The same as when Sunny Bay and Earth Summit came to the last turn, just the two of them still in the race. You've got to leave some petrol in the tank, because it's going to be a long way home.
OK, Claire, thanks for that. I'm sure there's many people around here that want to congratulate you on being the strongest link, so go and enjoy it.
Sounds more nervous.
Well, as Claire said, Edmund certainly has a chance, ridden by Richard Johnson, and if he does win the race, then he will find himself on the front and back pages of all the papers tomorrow, but then he's used to that, isn't he? As Scoo found out when he went to meet him.
Richard, you've chosen Edmund to ride in the National. You must have had several choices. What made you choose him?
2 or 3 reasons, really. I mean, he's been a very good servant to me over the last couple of years, and he was a very good winner of the Welsh National. And with all the wet weather just recently, I mean, hopefully the ground is going to be on the slow side, and I mean, I think he'll love those conditions, and he's going to get in the handicap off a good weight.
It's Edmund, the Chepstow specialist, who wins the Coral Welsh National for Richard Johnson.
On the whole, he's been a very safe and consistent jumper, and he keeps running a consistent race, as he has in the last 2 Welsh Nationals. So I think the conditions are going to suit. He's the right type of horse for the race. Obviously, need a lot of luck, but for me, he was my best choice at the moment.
The Grand National is very much the public's race, isn't it? It's the biggest gambled on race of the year. People that don't deal with horses normally will look at the Grand National. If you win the Grand National, although you're pretty famous already, it'll take you into another level.
Yeah, I think it's the people's race. It's something that I think God knows how many countries watch it, and it's one of those one-off races that a lot of people will only see one probably horse race all year, and there's sort of, for a jockey it's fantastic to win, and I think Mick Fitzgerald, he said it was the best thing he'd ever done, and his wife wasn't very pleased about that. But no, I mean it is a fantastic thing, and it is I think everyone's dream when they're a child to win the Grand National. I think now I've got a bit older, my main ambition in life is to be champion jockey, but it is it is definitely one of the things you always dream about, and you always dream how you'd be after if you won the National.
You and I said we've got similar backgrounds and similar ways we've been brought up. We went to the same school, though I was there a few years before you, I'm pleased to know. And we both started off with the same tutor, same governor, David Nicholson, just up the road. Sets you up on a good way of learning about racing.
Yeah, he was very good, and he's been fantastic to me from day one, really, ever since I went there for a week in my school holidays, and then when I went to work full time, he taught me the right way to do things, but also was very supportive in everything I've done, and keeps a keen interest now, even though he's retired.
And it was through riding out at David's you met Zara, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I met her riding out there. Obviously, she used to ride out with her mother, and now we've got on quite well since.
Your lifestyle does take you away from what normal, inverted commas, people do, isn't it? Do you think that that's harder on your partner?
I think basically, Zara's she's knows a lot about racing, and again, she's very busy with her own horses. It works quite well, and we see each other quite enough.
The Royal family have had a very close association with the Grand National, so will Zara be taking a close eye on what goes on with Edmund?
I should probably have a watch anyway and see, just to make sure I probably come back in one piece, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, she's interested in racing. I think she'll probably be there on Grand National Day. She enjoys racing, and so obviously that's good as well. And their family is obviously very involved with racing, and have a lot of horses as well. So she's got plenty to keep herself busy with.
Has she ever walked around the track? Have you walked around the course with her? Or?
No. I think I'll walk around on my own and worry about it myself, probably.
As a licensed jockey, you're not supposed to bet. Where will Zara's money be on Saturday?
Oh, I don't know. As long as it's not on me, I don't mind. But I don't know. I'm sure she'll have a few quid on something somewhere. But yeah, so as long as it's not on me, because that definitely would be the kiss of death.
Well, from a man who's trying to get round the Grand National for the very first time to someone who's got the best record of all modern-day jockeys, Carl Llewellyn. You won the Grand National in an election year on party politics. It was heavy ground on Earth Summit. Now you got both.
Perfect, isn't it?
Yes.
Can't go wrong.
The omens are right, but what about the ground for Beau?
There's not many horses in the race going to handle this heavy ground. He's won on very soft ground before, so I'm not particularly worried about the ground. I'm more worried about the weight in the ground. I think he'll handle the ground, but to carry 11 stone 10, giving a lot of weight away, that's the big if really for me.
So would you sort of adopt the same tactics as Earth Summit and drop him round and just try and keep him jumping?
Well, the tactics with Earth Summit were to hunt round for a circuit and then think about the race. So today I think I might hunt round for 2 circuits.
and then think about the race.
Then think about the race. I'm probably turning in, I think. But there's not going to be many getting around. There's been a lot pulling up. So I'm going to basically ride to get round, and then if you're riding to get round and you're standing up by sort of 4 out, you'll be in with a shout.
And now that you're a senior, experienced jockey, do you find that the young ones come to you for advice?
I don't actually feel old. I feel very young. So.
Well, you're only 35.
That's right. Yeah, very young. A few of them do. But it's very basic, really. You just use your brain, and loads of the lads have been hunting in very soft ground before, and it's similar, really. You just don't go for any brave awards and don't do anything silly. Use your brain.
You've already had a winner this afternoon, but what do you do between now and the big race itself?
I'm going to dry off for a bit. I had 10 stone in the first. I'm going to have just a bite to eat. And just,
You could have a great big meal with the weight you've got on Beau.
I could, yeah, but I'd probably be able to. I wouldn't be very active on him if I did that, so I'll leave that till afterwards. But no, just to hang around, really, have a bite to eat, and a little sandwich and a cup of tea, really, and just have a look at the paper and things like that, just waste time.
And when do the nerves kick in? Have they yet?
No, too busy, really. Just possibly before the race, waiting around in the weighing room, then everyone's just starts to get a bit on their toes, and then waiting around at the start is probably the worst bit. You know, hanging around there for quite a while before we get going. Once we jump off, it's great, you just take over.
You just want it to get started now, don't you?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, very, very good luck to you on Beau. Let's hope you get round again.
Thank you, pleasure, cheers.
Now, Mick Fitzgerald, as we've heard, won't be riding in the race on Esprit de Cotte because he's aggravated an old injury, but he does know his way round. He won the race on Rough Quest, and he can tell us about some of the key fences.
Now we're down here at the first fence in the Grand National. You can see, looking back, what a long run it is down to this obstacle. You can see the Melling Road in the distance. That's the point where I like to let my horses run to. Once you get to the Melling Road, you sit and try and get your horse balanced. It's extremely difficult to get your horse balanced when you look up here and you can see the pavilion. An absolute sea of people. They'll be shouting, screaming on their fancies. You can see now as we get down here to the first fence, this is the point where you think your horse should be taking off from, right here. Anything that takes off in here at this orange board is on a one-way ticket, and that way is out of the race. You've got over the first, you've jumped the second, you now come to the third. It's a big ditch. It's one of the biggest fences on the course, I think. And you can see something here has hit the board. I sincerely hope that he's got over it, because how close he's got there, I doubt it very much. But you've got to jump this well. Once you've got over this, it's now down onto Beecher's. Beecher's Brook, one of the toughest fences on the course. Look at these footprints. I'd be willing to bet anything that this horse did not get round, and you'll see when we get to the other side why. Now you can see why. There's a big drop here. Closer you get to the inside, the more the drop is. And unfortunately for me, this has been my pick-up point for the last 2 years. I've fallen at this one the last twice, second time round. I'm hoping I won't make it a third time today. Canal turn. Looks like any other fence, doesn't it? But you jump it here and you'll end up in the town centre. You've got to ride your horse from the outside right down to the inside so that you can cut the corner off. It can save you as much as 10 lengths, this fence, and if you meet it wrong or something on your outside comes in, you're in trouble. Now you can see what I mean. You've jumped this fence at an angle which cuts you in. You're then heading down to Valentine's. You've got a beautiful long line of fences along here, which gets you up to the grandstand and the chair. The chair, the biggest fence on the course, a formidable obstacle. This one's a little bit different to some of the others. You can allow your horse to get quite close to this, because with the board, you can have them have a little spring. The biggest problem here is the crowd. The distraction sometimes can put your horse off his rhythm. Now the water, the smallest fence, but it's off out to do it all again. The 30th and final fence. Now you've got that long running, and you can see how far it really is, all the way up there. When I won on Rough Quest, that was the most crucial part of me winning the race, timing my run.
Rough Quest, the gold cup second, is now striding away, and Rough Quest is going to win the 1996 National. Rough Quest comes up to the line to win it.
The winning post. This is the point that every jockey dreams about, being in front in a race like the Grand National. It is everybody's dream to win a race like this. I should know.
I've not enjoyed 12 minutes for as long in a long time. I think sex is an anticlimax after that.
Well, the biggest certainty of the day has already won because Celtic have clinched the Scottish Premier League, having beaten St Mirren 1-0. Martin O'Neill will be a very happy man tonight. We saw Mick Fitzgerald walking us round the course, but sadly he won't be riding round it. What's happened?
Well, basically it's a culmination really of a couple of bad falls yesterday and a bad fall Saturday, and my shoulder felt okay when I was riding in the first, but when I walked back in it just gave way. I think it's just taken too much of a hammering. It's black and blue and it just can't take it. And I can get my arm up to a certain level, but then it just collapses on me. So they've said that the bruising is sitting on a nerve and it's just a no-go. And you know, it's so disappointing to have come this far. You know, it's awful.
I mean, even in this weather and even on a horse who didn't get round last year, you still wanted to ride if you could have done.
Well, there's only one Grand National every year, and I've been lucky. I've been part of it every year. I'm part of the history of the race. I haven't been lucky enough to win it. And to not be able to take part was the one thing about riding the Spirit of Cot. He was unlucky to fall last year at Beechers. You know, he got in a little bit close, but he'd schooled so well leading up to this race. He's in great form. He's been trained for the race, and he would have given me a great ride because he is one of the horses that will actually go in these testing conditions.
Well, it's a real shame for you, but if Paul Flynn ever picks up his mobile phone, he'll have a good, exciting ride there.
Oh, he will. He will, because the horse he knows the score now. He's been around here a couple of times. And they're the sort of ones you want, especially on a day like today, because survival is going to be at a premium today.
Well, listen, Mick, I'm sorry you're not going to be lining up with them, but come watch it with us instead.
There you go. Well, we'll see what we can do.
Disappointment for Mick Fitzgerald there, but we found a famous face in the crowd. It's another Mick Hucknall, who's here with his dad, Reg. So, Mick, are you a racing fan?
No, this is the first time I've ever gambled. So, but for somebody who's not interested in racing, I've done some nice things. I've been here. I've been to the Dubai Classic and also to Belmont in New York. So this is the first time I've got a bet on what the horses.
Oh, it's got to be with Simply Red. Is it Red Marauder or something?
He's
is it
recommended the horses, so I can't even remember the names. Lance Armstrong, one of them.
Armstrong each way.
And Moral Support. Those are the two I put a bet on. So I hope one of them will win at least. So he's the expert. I don't know anything about racing.
So you brought him along to the racing then, have
That's
you?
right. Yeah. First time I've ever been to the National. I prefer flat racing really, but I do like watching the National, you know.
Oh, yeah, it's a big occasion. Yeah, it's a big occasion here. What do you think of the atmosphere?
Well, it's great. It's just been dampened by this northwestern weather, you know, but you get used to it. I'm from Manchester anyway, so you get used to it anyway. But I've not really seen much of the atmosphere. I just came straight in there to avoid the rain. But I'll be out there watching the race when it happens.
And you're here with a good friend, Sir Alex Ferguson's here.
Yeah, he invited me down here. So he's very into his horses.
Have you listened to him?
Huh?
Have you listened to him?
Listen to him.
Okay.
I think he wins more.
Right, okay, so it's Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Mick. We'll let you get back in the warm. It's a bit chilly out here, isn't
freezing, yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Mick. Thanks very much, Reg. Okay, so we're now ready for our third race of the day here at Aintree. It's the Martell Aintree Hurdle, and here's Jim with the runners and riders.
Number 1 is Barton, Tony Dobbin. 2, Best Mate, Jim Cullity. Number 3, Bounce Back, Thierry Dumen. 4 is First Ballot, Timmy Murphy. 5, All La Loire, Dean Gallagher. No, a non-runner now, All La Loire. All La Loire is out. Non-runner. Number 6 is Landing Light, Richard Johnson, taking over from Mick Fitzgerald. Number 7 is Mr. Banjo, Adrian Maguire. 8 is Mr. Cool, Tony McCoy. And 9, Teatral, is Norman Williamson. 8 go, and this is Martell Aintree Hurdle. Let's see the betting.
Best Mate has opened up the 3-1 favourite. It started 5-2, but it's now 3-1, having touched 11-4. Mr. Banjo, very easy to back, 5-2 out of 4-1. Good support for the French Raider. Bounce Back. Remember, he's had a good meeting. Thierry and Francois Dumas. Landing Light also out to 7-1 from 11-2. Good support for Teatral. 10-1 into 7-1. Barton's and Solid at 8. It's gone 7s and back to 8. Mr. Cool is 16s and First Ballot is 20s. So the focus of the market here, the money horses are Bounce Back number 3 and Teatral. Those two, the best backed horses in the race.
Those are the colours of Sir Stanley Clark, and they'll be carried on Barton, the horse that we thought was going to be a wonder horse because he won at the Cheltenham Festival in '99 and then came to win up here over 2.5 miles from Otoya on that occasion. He did injure himself and he missed a season, but he came back to win at Newcastle, but he just hasn't quite looked the horse he was in 3 runs, and running over a trip last time was a bit disappointing. But this horse has shown he has got class to spare. Tony Dobbin riding for Tim Easterby.
Well, there is Barton, lovely horse, as you say, Richard. I saw him win his bumper. So many of these horses I follow up through their career. There's the colours of the man I'm just putting into my computer next to Village King, so I shall remember it in a minute, because this is Jim Cullity. Jim rides this beautiful horse, Best Mate. He's been touted as the next Arkle, and watching him over fences, he quite reaches those heights. Well, I doubt if I'll ever see a chaser as good as Arkle, but this is the most beautiful horse. Very clever of Henrietta Knight to bring him back over hurdles. He was beaten at Cheltenham in the Supreme Novices hurdle over 2 mile last year. Just didn't get going till too late in the race, but he was finishing like a train. He's looked magnificent over fences. He did stand off around Cheltenham too far to ditch, but this is a proper racehorse, Richard. This could be as good as we see for a while. Will he handle the ground, though?
Yes, he won in heavy last time. Well, these are the colours of Mr. Banjo, John Hales, of course, who owned the Great One Man. Now, he's drifted alarmingly in the betting, and yet if you look at his form, he was second in that staying race at Cheltenham, won by Lady Rebecca, with Teatrol fourth and Barton fifth. He is a lovely, lovely horse, this, and I am amazed that he has drifted. He's won in heavy ground at Chepstow, so I just cannot understand this drift in the market here. But Adrian Maguire, already a winner on the board today, rides Mr. Banjo in the colours of John Hales. Let's have a look at the market.
Best Mate, an uneasy favourite at 3-1, with Mr. Banjo a very weak second favourite at 4s. Those two opened up at 5-2. That's because the support for others in the race bounced back popular 6-1 into 9-2. Landing Lights are unpopular 11-2 out to 7s. But Teatro's also been back from 10s into 7s, and out the back there, Barton out to 9-1 with Mr. Cool 16s and First Ballot 25s. The feature here, the opposition to Best Mate and Mr. Banjo in the ring.
We've got the Tote Gold Trophy winner here, Landing Light Skew, now ridden by Richard Johnson, of course. Poor Mick Fitzgerald having to watch from the sidelines. 7-1 from 13-2.
Yeah, Richard picks up a few rides for Nicky Henderson when poor Mick is hurt. This is a good horse, by In the Wings. Being produced beautifully by Nicky Henderson. Didn't produce his best first time, which was a lot of luck, because it meant he was well handicapped for the Tote Hurdle. He then came and won at Cheltenham, and I didn't think that was good enough to win the Tote Hurdle, and as usual I was wrong, absolutely bolted in. He is now going up a class here, and he's got 11-7. He's taken the horses on here at level weights instead of a handicap. A bit of a step up in class, but he's a good horse.
Francois Dumont's had a good time, hasn't he? He's got Banjo, but there,
Just keep
bounce
walking
back
around,
rather.
not quite
He's had
time
2
yet.
winners from just 2 runners so far. This horse will go in the ground, and he could just make it 3 from 3, and then he's got Jeddah going in the Martel National itself.
Jim, they're in line. They're just keeping an eye on horse
All
for
right,
a
you
while,
line
Jim,
up
because he
now.
didn't start very well last year.
No, wait. Come on.
That's it, under orders, and they're racing. And away pretty well, the field all beginning in good style. One of the first out is Mr. Cool, with Mr. Banjo up there as they charge now towards the first of 11 flights. Teatral is up there as well, followed then by First Ballot and Barton, who's back in the field. On the near side, Best Mate is getting up there into about 4th or 5th on the inside. Heading now towards the second. And Mr. Banjo, the near side from Mr. Cool and Teatral, and just behind them is First Ballot. Then in the centre is Bounce Back, the pink sleeves, followed by Best Mate, tucked away on the inside. Over on the far side is Barton, and 2 or 3 lengths then to Landing Light, as they head now towards the turn out of the back straight. It's first out in front is Mr. Banjo by 2 lengths, 2 in second. And to this stage is Mr. Cool, then up on the outside, Teatral in third, followed by First Ballot and Barton on the outside. Further back in the field is Bounce Back. tucked away behind the Best Mate, and Landing Light is last of the 8 runners as they round the home turn on the first occasion. In this Martel Aintree hurdle, and Mr. Banjo, ridden by Adrian Maguire, who gave Ballinclay King such a great ride in the previous race to win, is showing the way here. Mr. Banjo the far side from Teatral, and then Mr. Cool. First Ballot is going pretty well, seems to be handling the conditions okay so far. And as we change camera angle, Barton, the white face, right over on the far side. Bounce Back is just behind them. On the right of picture is Best Mate, and Landing Light just not too fluent at that, but got away with it. Heading up now towards the next one in the home straight, which will be flight number 5. And Mr. Banjo with the noseband on the near side, just getting over in front of Teatral. And out wider is First Ballot. Mr. Cool in the white jacket getting up in the centre. Barton in the striped jacket is next. Followed then by Bounce Back for Thierry Duman. Followed by Best Mate, who's second last, and last is Landing Light. Only 6 or 7 lengths covers them as they go out with just under a circuit to go. Mr. Banjo out in front by 3 parts of a length. The Teatral up there as well too is Mr. Cool, right there in the centre for Tony McCoy. Just angling to hold ground in the centre. Best Mate in behind them. Jim Cullity has got right up on the inside into 4th on the inside. Martin, the other striped jacket, out wider. Then Bounce Back in the centre. First Ballot has dropped back through the field, and Landing Light still at the rear. Into the back now, and heading along towards the first of 3 down there. Mr. Banjo and Mr. Cool judged that one to perfection. A mighty leap. The champion jockey saw a stride miles back there and took full advantage. Teatral moves up to make a line of 3. Just in behind them is Bounce Back, followed then by Barton and Best Mate. Behind them Landing Light as they go to the middle one down the back, and First Ballot missed that one out and has lost ground. Heading down the back, they've got 4 flights left to jump in the Martel Aintree hurdle, and Mr. Cool leads at this stage from Teatral up on the outside. Barton goes into 3rd, followed by Mr. Banjo, Bounce Back, and Best Mate. Just being niggled a little bit now. He'll be wanting to get into the race soon as they prepare to leave the back. Mr. Cool from Teatral and Barton moving up now from Bounce Back. 2 lengths to Best Mate, getting closer all the time. They've kicked away now from Mr. Banjo. Landing Light going past that one, and a long gap then to First Ballot, who you can safely forget about. As they leave the back now and race across the top of the track, it's Mr. Cool on the inside. Tony McCoy taking an unconventional look behind the saddle there. From in second, Teatral, Barton in 3rd, then Bounce Back in 4th. They're followed by Best Mate in 5th, a gap to Mr. Banjo and Landing Light, who are struggling some way behind these leaders as they come into the home straight in very heavy conditions here for this Martel Aintree hurdle. And it's Mr. Cool on the far side being pressured now by Teatral. They're followed by Barton, and Bounce Back switched to the far side now by Thierry Duman, and Best Mate coming on the near side. 3 out, and Bounce Back was the one who made ground at that, but Mr. Cool is the leader from Bounce Back, and on the near side Barton. Here's Best Mate coming up the centre, giving a slap of the whip. Teatral has run his race, has dropped away. 2 left to jump now, and on the far side Mr. Cool jumps it well from Barton. Best Mate didn't handle it at all well. Going into 3rd is Bounce Back. They've got 1 left to jump now, and he says go on Barton. Tony Dobbin, he takes it up clearly. Barton sprints 2 or 3 lengths in front. This is a great performance in the conditions. Mr. Cool in second. Barton got over the last okay, as powering clear by 4 or 5 lengths. Mr. Cool can't find any more from Best Mate, then Bounce Back, and Teatral just coming to the last. But with 100 yards left to go, this has been a fantastic performance by Barton as he comes home alone. He's going to win it by 10 or 12 lengths, punched right out by Tony Dobbin. Barton goes on to win the Martel Aintree hurdle by the best part of 12 lengths. Going to be tight for second. Best Mate, his big heart got him up for second, ahead of Mr. Cool in 3rd, followed then by Bounce Back in 4th, and then Teatral, the only other one to finish. First Ballot pulled up, Landing Light pulled up, and Mr. Banjo pulled up. Tony Dobbin, he rides Listen Timmy later on in the National, our next race. But the winner is number 1 Barton, owned by Sir Stanley Clark, trained by Timmy's, to be ridden by Tony Dobbin. The colours that Listen Timmy will carry in the next race, the Martel Grand National. Second is number 2, Best Mate, ridden by Jim Cullity. Third, number 8, Mr. Cool, ridden by Tony McCoy. And fourth, number 3, Bounce Back, Thierry Dumen. Teatral was the only other finisher. 9-1, the winner, Barton. And look at Tony Dobbin. That was a good pipe opener for the big one.
This will be a great tonic for Sir Stanley Clark. Of course, he hadn't been all that well over the last few months. Barton, who, as I said before, had looked to be the golden horse of 2 years ago, had an injury. And in fact, after his last run, there were rumours he wouldn't run again this season. And it was in the end put down to some viral infection, which obviously the Easterby's have cleared up. He's relished these conditions. He's won this race before. He's come back and done it again. Now, good race from Mr. Cool back in second place at the moment. He gets caught by Best Mate, who plugs on. I mean, he is a much better horse than this, you can believe me. Best Mate's only run 9 times in his life and he's won 6 of them. But then the winner has only run 13 now and he's won 9. This is back to the form we knew. You can forget his previous form, but on this ground there are some funny results. This isn't one of them because he has shown 2 seasons ago that he was a top horse. Tony Dobbin could not wish for anything better than to have this as an appetizer to the Martel National itself. You can see that Tony's got 3 pairs of goggles on there. They need it in these sort of conditions. You pull one pair down after the other, and there's not too much mud on him. There wasn't a big field, and it is very loose today. But here's the winner, and I'm sure Jim's got a line or two on this one.
Distance is 14 lengths and a length and a quarter. 14 lengths and a length and a quarter. Weather is absolutely appalling, unfortunately, for the Grand National, which comes up in about 40 minutes' time. Tony Dobbin will be carrying these colours on Listen Timmy in the big one. Owned by Sir Stanley Clark and trained by Alan King, Listen Timmy. But of course Barton, trained by Timmy Timmy, who's done such a great job with this outstanding 8-year-old.
Well done, good boy.
The ground is very, very testing and tiring. You can see there. Now, interesting that we've just heard that Tom Doyle will ride 32 Esprit de Cotte in the Grand National. He's come in for the ride. They were looking for Paul Flynn. Unfortunately, Paul's mobile wasn't answering. And Tom Doyle comes in for the mount on Esprit de Cotte. Well, there's a good shot of Barton. And here are the SPs. The winner, Barton, at 9-1. Second, Best Mate at 3-1 in favourite. And third, number 8, Mr. Cool, at 16-1. All Lanois, the non-runner. There's Tom Doyle. Well, what a lucky break for him to get a ride in the National. There he is with the red cap. That's a red distinguishing cap. The last fling will carry the first set of colours, those owned by Trevor Hemmings. Well, he hasn't had time to think about it. It will be a fantastic thrill for him. And that is the
Well, I fancy Dark Stranger.
I'm going for Melly Moss.
It won't be long until we find out who they will lead down this walkway and into the winner's enclosure. That's just about an hour away. It's now time for us to start our final build-up to the 2001 Martel Grand National. And what a daunting task facing horse and rider. From the start, it's the traditional charge to the first, a fence where so many of the famous have fallen. On they go to the 6th fence, the most famous of all, the legendary Beecher's Brook. From there, over 2 more, including the Foynaven fence, famous following that pile-up in the National in '67, and then on to the Canal turn, where they turn sharp left to face 4 fences, all 5 foot high, before making the turn towards the grandstand. And right in front of the stand, the spectators can cheer their horses over the chair. That's the tallest fence on the course at 5'2", and then the water jump. Always spectacular shots as they clear the water there. They will then jump those 2 fences just the once before passing the winning post for the first time, and then back across the Melling Road and down to what was the first, now the 17th on the course. Still a long way to go. 30 fences in all, 4.5 miles, and the final few furlongs will be a real test, a long slog in the mud towards the winning post. That's the massive challenge facing horse and rider today. And here they are, the 40 who will take up that challenge. Let's join Jim for the runners and riders.
Number 1 is Beau, the winner of the Whitbread Gold Cup. He's got a big task with top weight, 11 stone 10. Number 2 is Papillon, last year's winner. He's trying to be the first since Red Rum in 1974 to win back-to-back Grand Nationals. Number 3 is Earth Mover. He's an enigmatic character who fell in the Grand National last year when well fancied. Joe Tizard taking the ride. Number 4 is Merry People, ridden by Garrett Cotter, both horse and rider, attempting the Grand National for the 3rd time. Five is Tresor de Mai, who's one of 10 runners for champion trainer Martin Pipe. Roddy Green's having his 2nd ride in the Grand National, 9 years after his first. 6 is General Wolf, a real veteran of the Grand National fences. He was 16th in 1997 and 12th in the 99 Grand National. 7, The Last Fling, ridden by Seamus Durack, 7th to Papillon last year. He's just struggling to find form this year. 8 is Handicap, trained by the Aintree legend Ginger McCain. Handicap was a high-class chaser, but he's had injury worries. 9 is Addington Boy, who runs in the colours of Derek Rees, who won this in a competition sponsored by Martel and Aintree, and that was to benefit the farmers. Number 10 is Red Marauder, ridden by Richard Guest, who was 2nd in the 1992 Grand National. Red Marauder fell at the 6th last year. Number 11 is Jeddah, ridden by Thierry Dumaine, having his 3rd Grand National ride. He was 9th on the same horse last year. Number 12 is Strong Tell, owned by Liverpudlian and Terry Neal, who has 3 runners in the race. This is the race he most wants to win. 13, Unsinkable Boxer, once a top hurdler, now better known as a point-to-pointer. Dean Gallagher takes the mount. 14 is Blowing Wind, ridden by Tony McCoy, the champion. That was his choice. He had a choice of 10. Blowing Wind's a mudlark who loved the conditions. 15 is Moral Support, trained by Charlie Mann and ridden by Noel Feely. Moral Support, a good stayer. He was 2nd in the Welsh National. 16 is Northern Starlight, ridden by 18-year-old Tom Scudamore, his 1st Grand National ride. He's the 3rd generation of his family to ride in the Grand National. 17 is Noble Lord, an able jumper who just received the green light to run recently from Richard Phillips, who walked the course. 18 is Amberley House, trained by Ginger McCain and ridden by Warren Marston. 19 is Exit Swingers, ridden by Chris Maud, who's taking time out for his new valeting business. Number 20 is Mealy Moss. He hasn't been seen on a race course since finishing 2nd to Papillon last year, but well fancied just the same. Number 21 is Dark Stranger. He was favourite last year, only to fall. He's a first ride for Irishman Kieran Kelly. Number 22 is Listen Timmy. He carries the Lord Galeen colours. Tony Dobbin carried him to victory in the previous race as well. Number 23 is Inish Kara. First start for new trainer Venetia Williams. Was formerly with Michael Hirrigan and left that stable during the week. 24 Edmund, a real mudlark, and has been backed into 8-1 favouritism. Richard Johnson in the saddle. 25 is You're a Good 'Un, trained by Martin Pipe, ridden by Rupert Wackley. You're a Good 'Un, a quirky character who will be staying on. 26 is No Retreat, a first Grand National ride for 20-year-old Jason Maguire, whose uncle Adrian Maguire also rides. 27 is Smarty, Mark Pittman, the trainer, upholding family tradition by having runners in this great race. Number 28 is Hollybank Buck, who was 10th last year, and he'll love the ground. A first ride for Fran Flood. Number 29 is Moondigwa, one of the pipe-trained long shots in the field. Shea Barry will have his first Grand National ride. Number 30 is Village King. Jim Colletti rides the one that Richard Johnson rejected. Number 31 is Spanish Main, a winner at Utoxeter last time. He loves the mud, but the trip is the big question mark. Number 32 is Esprit de Cotte. Mick Fitzgerald can't ride because of an injured shoulder. Tom Doyle, the lucky man who's got the late call. Number 33 is Lance Armstrong, ridden by Andrew Thornton. Lance Armstrong, a mudlark, who's a very sound jumper. 34 is Khaki Crazy. Not the easiest of rides, but he's a 5th mount in the big race for Rodney Farrant. Number 35, Feels Like Gold, trained by Nicky Richards, ridden by Brian Harding. This is a 3rd attempt at the Grand National for horse and rider. 36 is Paddy's Return, ridden by Adrian Maguire, who's completed the course in all 4 Grand Nationals to date. Number 37 is Brave Highlander in the famous Aldeniti colours. This is the 4th attempt for this grand old Aintree specialist. He was 4th last year. 38 is Art Prince, a first Grand National ride for 22-year-old Jim Crowley. Yellow distinguishing cap. 39 is Mr. One, who's a strong staying chaser and a first Grand National ride for Mark Bradburn. And finally, number 40, Supreme Charm, ridden by Robert Thornton, trained by Kim Bailey, who trained Mr. Frisk to win the National in 1990.
So there are the 40 runners and riders who will tackle the national course this afternoon. We're going to continue our build-up now. Our team are in place. Skoo is in the jockey's room. He's armed with the microphone, ready to talk to the jockeys as they make their final preparations. Claire is in the loose box area, ready to speak to the owners and trainers as they prepare their horses. Angus is in the betting ring to bring us all the latest news from there. And Richard is in position in the studio overlooking the paddock. Richard, it's all yours.
Thanks very much, and how exciting it is to be here with the horses behind me, some saddled and some still to be saddled. Of course, we've got our commentators around the course, 3 commentators here, of course, Tony O'Hare and John Hamner, as well as Jim McGrath. But let's go to Claire in the saddling boxes.
Well, I'm with a real star veteran of the Grand National. This is Brave Highlander. Jenny, the girl who looks after him, he's learnt a new trick this year, hasn't he? What's he been up to?
Well, we stay at Haydock and he's learnt to turn the switch on outside, so every time I leave him he turns the light on. It's quite frightening. I went in at 6 o'clock this morning and the light was on and your heart starts going. Turned it off and it's turned straight back on again, so I know it's him. It's not very funny at 6 o'clock in the morning.
What's it like to own a horse like this? I mean, you've had Aldenisi. I mean, this horse is a bit special too, isn't it?
A wonderful privilege, actually, to have him. It's his 4th consecutive year. He's taken to his fences from the start. Obviously doesn't have the class of Aldenisi, but I'm really a lucky guy to have the horse, and a guy like Josh who gets him ready for this day.
Well, they're just finishing off the touches to Brave Highlander. He's getting the sponge in the mouth. Just here we've got Feels Like Gold. Again, just finishing touches. Now, here's an interesting horse. This is Iniscara, being saddled up by Venetia Williams, who hadn't even seen the horse until yesterday. So what do you think of him? Do you like him?
He's a charming horse, yes. Unexpected pleasure.
He's not very big, is he?
I think he's big enough, yes. He's a strong horse. He's well made. And he's all of a quiver at the moment, but then so am I, and I think 90% of the other people are.
Everybody's shaking, including, look at this, he's absolutely trembling. And General Wolf right next door, who was also trained by Venetia Williams, he's a bit older and more experienced. But let's have a look in the jockeys' room now and see whether the jockeys are trembling.
No, not too many of them. It's all been done now. Rodney Farrant just going through the winning line colours there. Where's Skew?
Here I am in the weighing room. The atmosphere is really changing. I've got Seamus Durack stood next to me here. You've got a great ride in last fling. How's he going to go?
I think he'll go well now, hopefully. He finished 7th last year. I think he's in with a better chance again now this year, so his fingers crossed.
Good. And Tom Doyle, you've just picked up a fantastic ride in this race. You must be very excited.
Yeah, it's first time to ride in it. Be wonderful, unbelievable. Can't believe I've picked it up.
What do you know about the horse?
Just what Mick has told me. He said he's a good spin. He's confident that he could jump round, so touch wood.
And you haven't had time to have nerves?
No, it's only all happened in the last 10 minutes, so I'm rushing around trying to get ready, and touch wood, everything will go okay.
Very best of luck to you. Have you been round here before?
No, never. It's my first time.
And they're the colours of Blowing Wind. Peter Deal owns this horse, and he's won his last 2. He is, of course, the mount of Tony McCoy. He'd had 10 choices, and he's gone for Blowing Wind. Now, he was a very good hurdler. I just doubt if he's as brave as his owner. Peter Deal, a great man across country, following hounds with the old Barks. But he is a handsome big horse, this, isn't he? And I think that the ground is possibly in his favour rather than being against it, as is the case with so many people. Blowing Wind, number 14.
Well, Philip Hobbs has just put the finishing touches to Village King. There's been a lot of each-way money for this horse because yours are running so well.
Yeah, we've had a very good into whatever happens now, but he's in very good form. He's very well. He was going very well at last year, the one before Beaches, when he fell, and hopefully he's sensible enough that he won't do that again, hopefully.
It's pretty wet and miserable out there. Will he handle it?
It'll be very, very testing. I mean, he certainly coats with soft. Heavy's a little bit different, but the Singer and feeling the last time at Utoxeter, the ground was absolutely desperate, and he finished 3rd there, ran very well.
Well, next to you is the favourite Edmund. Henry Daly just putting the finishing touches here. Henry gets very nervous before a race, so we're not even going to attempt to talk to him. But Edmund looking extremely well, very calm about things, and a real look of knowledge about him. I think he'll be fine when he gets out there, and he's certainly candled the ground. The last fling and some others just going into the paddock to await their riders.
Well, I've got 2 of the most important people in the weighing room with me here. The whole atmosphere has suddenly changed. You've got all the jockeys ready. These are the valets who've been doing all the cleaning and tidying. Make sure the jockeys have gone out in the right colours. Now, they have the inside information. This is one of the wealthiest men in racing. Andy, what's going to win?
Well, if I was to have a bet, Skew, I'd back Earth Mover, I think, today.
Why is that?
Because I just fancy it, really. You know, it's and one of me top men over there, Mick's rode it, and he's given me a bit of information, like, you know.
And it is very important as a jockey who you have your cap tied by. Now, one of the luckiest tyers of all time is Shane. Now, whose cap have you tied today?
Well, today I've tied Norman's cap. It's the only time of the year I ever tie Norman, is the Gold Cup and the Grand National, because we've been very lucky in the past.
So there is an omen in itself. The lucky man has tied Norman Williamson's cap. And just behind me here is Mick, who must be feeling a little bit down from, you know, the atmosphere's changed now, as you say. It's all gone quiet. This is the time that you must be feeling a bit lonely.
Oh, yeah, it's at the end of the day, you know, the boys, there's 40 of them heading out to enjoy themselves, and, you know, I'd like to wish them all the very best of luck. It's going to be tough going out there today, but tough and all as it is, I'd rather be doing it than stood here talking to you.
Well, Claire said, come and join us in the commentary box and tell the boys where they've been going wrong in a minute.
I don't know about that, but we'll give it a go.
He's looking keen and lean, isn't he? There, of course, the colours of last year's Victor Papillon. Of course, French for butterfly, and didn't he just fly in last year? There he is. He's with Katie Walsh, who looks after this horse, did so last year. She's travelled over with him again and platted him, put no end of plats in. There must be a dozen of them. Now, this horse really relished in the good fast ground last year. Now, Ted Walsh said he's at his best on those conditions, but he has won a lot of times in soft. He's been certainly brought to the board with just 2 runs this season over 2 miles, so as not to get to the bottom of him. But let's go back to Claire and the heat of the saddling.
Here's
boxes.
a Mac you're not going to miss if he's walking into the winner's enclosure. This is Charlie Mann, trainer of Moral Support. How are you feeling?
Yeah, not too bad. Had a few glasses of champagne, so settling down a bit.
Which you always used to do before you were riding in the race as well.
That's right. I was normally a lot more drunk than this when I was riding in the race, that's for certain.
Well, I want you to meet someone very special, because this is Jessica, who actually chose Moral Support, didn't you?
Yeah.
And who have you got on your jacket?
Who's it,
that?
Jess?
What do you...
It's Moral Support, is it, Jess? Yeah? Who's the best horse in the world, Jess? Moral Support, yeah.
Moral Support. Now, how are you looking forward to it, Tom?
I'm David, actually. I'm
sorry.
Yeah, but I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, it'll be superb. I mean, the weather couldn't be any better for Moral Support. He loves the mud. I think it's going to be superb for him.
OK, well, best of luck to you. Good luck, Jessica. Bye-bye.
Well, as I said, it's gone quiet here because all the jockeys have gone next door to have a briefing from the stewards. The jockeys sort of treat this with a little bit of a laugh. I could hear a lot of giggles going on next door because they know how to ride this race. They don't need telling, really. I've listened to all the instructions from one jockey to another, asking each other what they're going to do. But basically, they've been saying to each other, come on, let's go steady. Let's not go too fast, and we'll get a lot of horses round.
Yes, they're the colours of Noel Feely, or he'll carry the Moral Support. What a great buy this was. He's by Zaffaran, and that stallion is also responsible for Bow. He stands in Northern Ireland, Alfie Buller's stud. But this is a very handsome horse. He's a half-brother. That means he's out of the same dam as Doran's Pride. The dam is San Martin. A very, very good horse. Not only is he handsome, but he can go in this ground and he can stay. So that is really, really good. He's got a lot going for him today. He was only bought for 8,000 guineas, something like that. So what a snip he could be if he lifts up the £290,000 that goes to the winner. But a lot of money going all the way down here. £110,000 goes to the second.
Now here's a group who know what winning the Grand National is all about. Betty Moran owned last year's winner Papillon, trained by Ted Walsh, who's here as well. How does it compare this year?
The ground's a little different, but I'm the same. I'm nervous.
But you know he can do it now, which you didn't last year.
I do know, and I think he will.
Ted, are you worried at all about the conditions?
I am. He's such a spectacular sort of jumper. I hope he just switches off for Ruby and he's economical, not so spectacular. I think if he's economical and relaxes, he's a big chance. But if he starts being spectacular, I think he'll burn himself out.
You walked the course very carefully. I mean, was there doubt in your mind at all about even running it?
No, I just walked it twice. Ruby was anxious that I'd walk with him again just there before the first race. We just looked around to see if there was anywhere we might go or might not go and avoid some trouble spots, that's all. Just, I suppose, maybe nervous walk, but we walked it anyway, you know.
OK, well, best of luck to you later.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Yes, they're the colours of Melly Moss. I spoke to Darren Mercer beforehand. He was feeling cool, but very much on the mettle. What an amazing thing this would be if this horse, who hasn't run since this race 12 months ago, could come and win today. He's had a breathing operation since then. If it makes him go any faster, he'll take some catching, won't he? Well, the jocks are coming out. They're filtering out in different ways. A lot of them are in the winner's enclosure, probably for a group photograph. I hope that they will all be there when they come back. There's little Tom Scudamore in the red with the white spots. Jamie Goldstein next to him, Brian Crowley. Joe Tizard looking pensive. He's in the yellow there. He's riding Earth Mover, of course, which is number 3 on the card. So Earth Mover, who didn't get very far last year, used to be a very good jumper, then lost the plot. Just coming through in the stripes of Chris Fleet's horse, Exit Swinger there. That is Chris Maud riding Exit Swinger. And Chris Fleet, his owner, says he's only running because his mother Hazel has told him he's got to have a runner in the National. So nice to know, Hazel, that your son, your big boy Chris, is still doing as he's told. Well, this is marvellous. You can see the one without his helmet on. I hope he puts one on. Is Carl Llewellyn, who rides Bow, the top weight, off 11 stone 10.
quite hard for the jockeys, this, isn't it? The anxious bits.
Right, they're all coming to meet us now. They're the colours of Village King, Claire's tip last night on the evening programme. Chris Maud looking very quiet. Exit Swinger would want much, much better ground. I'm afraid the ground's gone totally against him. Well, the jocks are back on course again. Skew coming out. There's Richard Guest, one of the oldest.
He's smiling. I was just trying to say, that I think the preliminaries are one of the hardest parts of the race. That's Dean Gallagher waving, Tony McCoy going across with
why
Carl
hasn't
Llewellyn, there's Tony Dobbin.
Skew,
Chris
why hasn't
Maud.
Llewellyn got his hat on yet then?
He's probably sweating still, just,
And
there's
Rodney
Pigeon
Farron
Farron blowing me a kiss.
Well, I don't think it
Roddy
was actually
Green.
aimed at you.
Jamie Goldstein, he's got a jocks cam on. That's the doctor. Hope he's not needed this afternoon.
Yeah, Ruby Walsh, last year's winner. What happened? No feeling.
Rupert Wackley.
Yes,
Timmy Murphy
on Smarty.
BJ Crowley.
And Andrew Thornton, Lenzio we call him.
Norman Williamson.
There's Tom Doyle.
Seamus, Richard Johnson, Warren Marston. They're mates from a long time ago.
Mark
Bradburn, another one of Pipe's jockeys. And there's the steward that's been helping round up the jockeys to tell them to go slowly.
Now, Edmund, they're the colours. A lot of people standing on them. They're colours of Lady Knutsford, who wouldn't let the horse run in the race last year, but she is now and has got the ideal conditions. It was fast ground last year. The horse doesn't go on it. He's a slogger. He's only had these blinkers on once before, and he actually fell on that occasion. But Richard Johnson, his jockey, told me that the horse was very unlucky indeed. This is a major chance, Edmund, because he goes in this ground. The paddock getting very, very packed now. You can see from our eye in the sky that a lot of people are still around the paddock, but most people getting a view from the stands because they want to see what's going on. Now, here are the colours of Bow, again by Zaffaran, as in fact Moral Support is. Owned by Sylvia Tainton and Skew. I think you and Nigel had to actually twist her arm to run.
No, twist the arm was the wrong thing. I mean, she's very concerned about her horse's welfare. She loves this horse as anybody would who's won a Whitbread Gold Cup. I mean, what a fantastic performance he put up. I feel that the fences and the distance will suit him. I spoke to the lad Matt who leads him up, who loves him just as much as Sylvia and we do. He said, look, I'm not worried about the ground for the horse. They're the people with the feeling for it. They know. He said, look, he's won on the heavy ground. I'm convinced he'll go very well.
He's the class horse, and I think we've got some betting for you.
Thanks, Richard, and what a fascinating Grand National market this is turning out to be. Edmund is the 9-1 favourite with Moral Support at 11-1. Papillon is a 14-1 chance with Mealy Moss, the biggest price it's been all week, at 14-1. In Iskara, the big gamble of the last 48 hours, 14-1. With Bow, the big drifter of the same time period, out to 16s from 14s. Smarty is a 20-1 chance. The Last Fling is 20s. Paddy's Return is 20-1 with Blowing Wind also at 20-1. Hollybank Buck, good support for that one this morning at 20-1. Earth Mover is 22 with Noble Lord and Dark Stranger on the 25 mark, along with the well-supported You're a Good 'Un and Spanish Main from this morning, both 25-1. Strong Tell 33s, Red Marauder 33s, Village King popular at 33s, and then we come to the bigger priced horses. These include Supreme Charm, a Brave Highlander and Jeddah at 40s, General Wolf and Northern Starlight at 50-1. Well, I'll tell you what, I've never looked forward to a Grand National as much as this, and the activity in the ring is ferocious. It is absolute bedlam because of the rain. There are punters scrambling away, but I'm sure that Edmund's going to go off favourite, and I'm sure there's going to be late office support for Papillon. Just one note, the Scoop 6, we don't often feature that on the BBC. If you're watching and you're one of 3 lucky ticket holders who are still going into the Scoop 6 on the Grand National, the 3 horses that are running are Red Marauder, Smarty and Edmund. Moral Support seems to be the one that most of the punters are pushing in. That could yet challenge Edmund for favouritism, but at the moment it's 9-1 the field.
Well, you wouldn't believe it, but I've actually picked up a rather good-looking man here in the paddock. This is Nat Parker, who you may recognise from Vanity Fair, and also your latest is
Inspector Linley.
That's right.
Yeah, which we're doing a new series of.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you're concentrating on the fortunes of General Wolf.
Yes, I have a quarter of the General, and I'm nervous, to say the least, actually.
Well, you look it. At least you put a very ropey scarf on. Couldn't you find
Very
a
ropey
warmer one
scarf.
than that?
Well, I am freezing, it has to be said, and very, very wet.
Well, you're going to get a lot of stick from racing types, you know. It's rather like me. I've worn completely the wrong clothes, and everybody keeps telling me so.
Yeah, but you can't miss it, though. It is a day that's unlike any other in the racing calendar.
And it is extraordinary, actually, looking around here, you know, racing people. They come out in all weathers. Look at this, driving rain, and yet people around smiling, laughing. They can't wait for the race.
The last time I went racing was Fontwell, where it was blizzards and snow. Well, only about 3 weeks ago, so I'm sort of used to it, really. It is an amazing spectacle, though. All these guys, and the best trainers and the best horses around.
Well, good luck to you. I have to tell you, though, the horse I think looks in tip-top condition, and sometimes you can't tell these things till the last minute, is Papillon. He looks wonderful, he really does.
Well, there'll be two horses in these colours of Trevor Hemmings. This is the last fling. In fact, you can see Seamus Durack there behind the horse's head, and a horse that ran particularly well in the race last year.
Yes, I thought that he ran after the Gold Cup last year, and that didn't help him. Seamus said that Harvey Smith wasn't very pleased after that ride, but this horse goes better for Seamus Durack than anybody else, has a great chance. That's Moral Support just coming through there. Another horse that you've already mentioned, Love the Soft Ground.
Chris Fleet's horse now exit swinger. Hazel's got the run here, but he wants dry ground. Then Hannah Ginger McCain's, of course, he'll go well, won't he?
Paddy's return, Adrian Maguire, just giving his horse a pat as they go through there.
And you've got Jimmy McCarthy looking fairly certain. Hollybank Buck, that's a one that can stay the trip. Now, there's your son, Skew, just coming into the central picture and blowing his cheeks out.
Yeah, just like I used to. Yes, obviously, I'm beginning to blow my cheeks out as well. You can't believe how nervous you get.
Seamus Durack giving us a gummy smile, no teeth there. Let's hope he keeps the remaining ones.
Yeah, I saw him taking his teeth out just before he came out.
Melly Moss.
Melly Moss, Norman Williamson. Norman was being very serious in the weighing room, quite rightly. Just keeping his feet out of his irons there to keep his horse nice and relaxed. Norman, fine rider, been going around for a good few years now.
It is amazing how horses will relax when you take your feet out of the stirrups, isn't it?
It is indeed. I mean, they know when you put your feet into their irons, you're going to gallop.
He had a mother and father of a fall yesterday, tough as old boots. He's got up to come out and do it again today. Now,
so Robert Thornton, don't get the Thorntons mixed up like I probably will. He's 22-year-old Robert Thornton. He's the rider of Supreme Charm. There's B.J. Crowley going through. Richard Johnson, there's one of my hopes, Bo. I thought he looked very well in the paddock. There's
and
Tom.
The smallest horse, the youngest jockey.
Yes. Happened
Smarty
before,
after
isn't it? That's
him.
what happened with the Bruce Hobson Battleship. There's another horse I've got a great deal of time for, Moral Support. We can just have a look at the betting now and see how it's changing in this weather.
Edmund's still favourite, but Moral Support is the public horse here on the track. There's no doubt about it. They could end up joint favourites come the day, because all the big money, the support, the offices have gone for this Moral Support. That's the horse here on the course. Papillon is 14s, Melimos 14s, Iniscara 14s, Bow Drifts. It's 20-1 bar. Great competitive betting market here.
Well, that's fascinating to see the gamble there for Moral Support, and Norman Williams still with his legs out of the irons. We want to welcome our Chinese viewers today. We're live in China to add to the rest of the world who do take us, and I've just heard from William Hills, their internet customers, they've got 2,400 new ones before 11 o'clock today, so a great deal of interest in China.
Yes, that's the one country that'll be able to understand us, Richard, I think, China.
This horse, Skew, I've missed him now, but let's just go back.
There's the other Thornton, Andrew Thornton.
Just go back on this. Handsome horse, well-bred, goes in the ground, got everything going for him.
He has indeed, yeah. I thought he'd win the Welsh National. He was the second that day. Super horse. He's well bought, as you say, by Charlie Mann.
And Charlie Mann not wanting to be seen today, so that's why he's put a big bright yellow raincoat on. This is a very tense time for jockeys, because all they want to do is to get on with the race. All these things are an annoyance to people, aren't they?
Once you're up now, you're beginning to settle down a little bit, aren't you? It's the photographs, it's me talking to him in the weighing room, that type of thing that's annoying to you. It has to be done, it's part of the big sport picture. There is blowing wind, and Tony McCoy, he's relaxed as anybody, just having a chat to Jonathan Lauer, He'll be a nervous man. That was him on the left of his picture there. He's the boy. There's all the schooling of the horses there. That's Martin Pipe in the wax jacket and the trilby. He won't be relaxed.
Like a crab.
That's right. He won't be relaxed. Very nervous about his horses. He'll be going down there now to give the final instructions.
Well, they will be getting into order any minute now. You can imagine with 40 runners, it just takes a little bit of ordering to get them in the position they need to be in numerical order. Do remember, if you're at home, that number 4 is the reserve here, Merry People. Now, Merry People will carry number 4, even though he'll only be carrying 10 stone, so he certainly won't be in the handicap proper. There's Esprit de Cotte nearest to us, and Tom Doyle getting the ride only a few minutes ago.
As you saw in me chatting to him in the weighing room, very cool, really looking forward to it. Hasn't had time to have a nerves. He's got a chance, and no, he's fallen around here, but he's no back number. Was a good horse in France, trained by Nicky Henderson. Nicky's right up there with our very best trainers.
And Stu, one thing I think we've got to bring out here, Fran Flood, who rides 28 Hollybank Buck, just going out in the back there. He is actually a flat jockey, isn't he? He rides more flat races than he does jumping, and I did see him go past just now riding quite short stirrups.
He would have a chance, wouldn't he, Hollybank Buck? He will act on the ground. They circle in 2 circles there, odds and evens, and then they'll go into one big group for you to do the
Well,
parade.
they must be pretty close to getting into this into the parade. And then, of course, it's not over for them. They'll canter past into the past the start to the first fence to show the horses the fence.
It's great credit to the horses how well behaved the majority of them are. I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 play up when they've warmed up a bit and cantered around, but just looking at them down there, they're beautifully behaved.
Well, it looks as if they are just going.
Yeah, Edmund's still favourite, 10 to 1 though, Moral Support, 12 Inishkara. I can't believe the money for this horse. It was 66 to 1 yesterday morning.
Okay, so they parade 11 stone 10, top one, Carl Llewellyn having his 10th ride and 2 winners in this race. Beau, a class horse. Behind him, Papillon, last year's winner, 11 stone 5. The ground looks to have gone against him, but he is a hero here. After that, Earth Mover, he fell last year. A lot of the jocks don't think that he'll get any further this year. Joe Tizard on board. After him, Trésor de Maille, one of Martin Pipe's Joe Moran's colours. Roddy Green having his 2nd ride. We've got one out of that, of course, is Merry People, sorry, the one that we've inserted into 4, but he is running off the bottom handicap of just 10 stone. Now we come to Trésor de Maille. Roddy Green, 2nd ride in the race. Not a great jumper, unseated last time out. After him, the winning line colours of General Wolf. Now, he's been round twice before, but he is now 12 years of age, but he looks a picture. The Last Fling, one of 2 of Trevor Hemmings. Seamus Durack having his 3rd ride, and he's ridden this horse to finish 7th last year. The Orange of Hanakan, a class horse, only had 2 runs for Ginger McCain. Can the legend come back? Addington Boy, after him, he's representing the Royal Agricultural Benevolent Institution, 4th and 5th in the last 2 years. Red Marauder, well, this one's by Gunnar B. Norman Mason owns and trained. Richard Guest having his 8th ride. In the black colours from France, Jeddah, Thierry Duman, 9th last season. In the spots, Strong Tell and David Casey, one of 3 runners for owner Terry Neal, born in Liverpool. In the blue, Unsinkable Boxer, former top-class hurdler, been point-to-pointing. Blowing Wind in the crossbelts, McCoy's Chosen Mount. After him, the purple of Moral Support, Charlie Mann and Phoebe. The youngest jockey, smallest horse, Northern Starlight, won over these fences last year. Noble Lord, he was doubtful, but he's here. Amberley House, John Hailwood owns this one, he's full of confidence. Exit Swinger will not like the ground, will Chris Maud bite it? Melly Moss, 2nd last year, can he go one better after a breathing operation? Well, he's very relaxed, Norman, with his feet back in the irons now. He's looking serious because it is a serious business. They only get 1 chance, 1 bite at the cherry. That looks like 21. No, in fact, it's not. Yes, it is. It's Dark Stranger, a horse who fell in the race last year when favourite. Listen Timmy after him. Stan Clark's already run this race with Lord Gilleen. Listen Timmy has lost his form. Iniscara, the gamble of the race, Robert Widger, he's on board Venetia training now. Edmund with Richard Johnson will relish these almost unraceable ground conditions. You're a good one, Martin Pipe. Rupert Wackley has unseated Rider a couple of times, but has got class. After him, we'll have No Retreat and Jason Maguire. Jason having his first ride in the race. Smarty is next for Mark Pittman. He was second in this race as a jockey. Can he win it as a trainer? Fran Flood, the flat jockey, riding over fences. He's dropped his irons a bit now. Shea Barry on another pipe runner will be next on Mundiga. This was for sale, but he stayed with his original owners. Village King, the choice of Clare in the show last night. He stays. He's got his own mind. Jim Colletti's got to make it up for him. Spanish Main, this has been tipped by a lot of people. Jamie Goldstein having his first ride in the race. Esprit de Corps, well, Tom Doyle only got the ride 10 minutes ago. Lance Armstrong, Andrew Thornton, who wears contact lenses, hope they don't drop out today. In the blue, Khaki Crazy, Rodney Farrant. Rodney Farrant on this horse who comes from France. Just a little ago. In the green, Feels Like Gold. He's been around a couple of times and run well once faster ground. Paddy's Return, Doer Stayer. He could do it. Adrian McQuire looks confident. Brave Highlander, he's been in this race 3 times before, and he is a good horse, but he is 13 now. Aldeniti colours. Art Prince, that is Terry Neal's third runner in this race. Jim Crowley on board. Mr. One, a half-brother to Seymour Business, Mark Bradburn, the physiotherapist, having his first ride in this race. There should be 2 more, and there is Supreme Charm, Robert Thornton on board. In fact, this is the last because Merry People went in number 4, remember. Supreme Charm from Kim Bailey's yard. Robert Thornton has completed once in this race. Well, there are the whole field. Now let's have a look at the market as some of them look at the first fence.
It's now joint favourites down here in a tremendous ring. 10-1 the field in the Martel Grand National. Edmund and Moral Support with this Iniscara, the big gamble of the meeting. There's no doubt about this. 12-1, 14-1 Bow. Finally, the punters thought 16 was too big. 16 Melimos, and there the big drifter now is Papillon, last year's winner. 16-1. Remember, it won at 10-1. It's 20-1 bar. 10-1 the field though.
Interesting to see the horses looking at the first fence and then cantering back. They're just going past the chair now, Skew, which from this side is much bigger than the landing, just one of the traps here. Well, the last fling, there's Seamus Durack. Now we can see
You're a good on that.
You're a good nearest to us.
Iniscara's a bit of an unknown. Now. There's Edmund, the favourite. Richard Johnson, probably quite wisely just letting your leathers down a hole here. These fences are bigger, it's a different style of jumping, and you just need a little bit more grip.
Papillon's just gone through the picture, a big drifter as opposed to last year, but here is 8. Hannah Khan, number 8 for Ginger McCain, one of 2 runners for Ginger. Back to Edmund with those blinkers on. And a whole group of them there now, Skew. Now, I believe this is the only time when it's pertinent for jockeys to show a horse a fence.
Yes, you're probably right. It's a long run to that first fence, isn't it? And for some of them, it's a bit of a shock when they get there. There's your son's horse, Smarty, going back to see the starter, Jerry Scott, who, as Jim McGrath told me earlier in the week, won the Grand National on Merriman in 1960.
He certainly did. Merriman won it in 16. He was second in 1961. That was the year that the fences first changed, which was an amazing part of the history here. Isn't that a good shot of the head of Richard Johnson? Now, why he was grimacing is because it's not nice riding in the rain.
It's not indeed, as you say, the jockey's just getting a final. You just, when you're there in a jockey, those jockeys there just making those, that's Philip Hyde just making his horse, Brave Highlander, just stand there, look, concentrate, this fence is different, you know. I think as a jockey, you try to get it into the mind of the horse, try and say, look, these first fences are perfectly jumpable. It's up to you and I to be sensible over them, not to do anything that's stupid. You know, at the first is a danger because you're rushing at it too much and we can over jump, and then you get over that big ditch.
Skew, there was a sight of the Melling Road. It is quite a stretch of cinders that they actually gallop over on the way to the fast. Let's have a look at the market, Gus.
10 to 1 the field in the Grand National. For a moment, Edmund went back to clear favourite, but Moral Support is also 10 to 1. Ines Cara is 12s. Beau has been backed in the last few minutes. That's been very popular here, despite drifting out to 16s. Mealy Moss, last year's runner-up, 16s. Last year's winner, Papillon, is 16s. It's 20 to 1 Smarty, 20 to 1 the last fling, Paddy's Return, Blowing Wind, and Hollybank Bar, 25 to 1 Bar. It's very, very open now, 10 to 1 the field.
Well, the starter very slowly is walking over to his rostrum. It won't be too long before they're being summoned forward. Out in the country, we have my colleagues John Hanmer, who will be commentating on his 30th consecutive Grand National. A magnificent feat. And out at Beaches, Tony O'Hare, who will be commentating on the action out there. Well, the runners are down at the start. There is Jerry Scott looking at his watch anxiously. He's amongst the horses there. He's checking Supreme Charm's girth there. Robert Thornton. Papillon just behind there, last year's winner Edmund, who's the joint favourite. But what a magnificent betting race it's been, with Ines Cara, who was 66 to 1 earlier in the week, having switched stables and now having been backed into as low as 12 to 1. Certainly will be a story, that, if he happens to get up. The runners are circling down at the start. Paddy's Return is another big shortener, 16 to 1 from 20s, I'm told, from the ring. And there is Lance Armstrong, who loved the conditions, walking around. Thierry Duman on Jeddah. Walking around is Moral Support with a white face. The striped colours there of Listen Timmy. There's Adrian Maguire on Paddy's Return. Adrian, who's had 4 rides in the race. He's completed every time. Paddy's Return, who's been laid out for this race, but conditions not ideal for him at all. Let's have a look at the betting. Edmund and Moral Support are joint favourites at 10 to 1. Ines Cara at 12 to 1. Beau at 12 to 1. 14 to 1 Papillon. It's 16 to 1 Mealy Moss. 16's Paddy's Return, a big shortener there, and 20 to 1 Bar. As they continue to circle down at the start, just about coming up to starting time. There's Listen Timmy. There's Simon Morant, who's walking over to the rostrum now. He's got the flag with him. We don't want a repeat of the dramas of 1993. Very, very heavy rain pouring down here. Now the starter is on his rostrum now. He's calling them forward. Let's just see if he tries to get them up on the tape. That's it, under orders, and they're racing. And standing at the start, no retreat, and on the inside, one of the first away is Moon Digwa. Right up there in the early stages is Esprit de Cot. Tom Doyle having a ride in the race now, and now Edmund taking it up over on the far side. Then Papillon, last year's winner, who's right in the van from Moral Support as they charge over the Melling Road, and we join John Hanmer.
And Edmund is definitely one of the leaders towards the outside. Beau's not far behind them either. Nor's Moral Support. Esprit de Cot's up there. Edmund's over safely. The leaders are over safely, but Spanish Main is a faller, and also Art Prince. They appear to be the only two at the first as they jump the next, and Beau's right up with the leaders with Esprit de Cot. Hannican's fallen at the second. Addington Boy has gone as well, and Trésor de May has fallen as they jump the open ditch, fence number 3. It's Beau disputing the lead with, on the near side, Esprit de Cot. We've got a couple of fallers there. Hollybank Buck is one. The other jockey's still on the floor. I'll try and identify that in a moment. But as they jump the 4th, it's Beau on the outside with Edmund, Esprit de Cot, Merry People. The other faller was Khaki Crazy. Earth Mover's gone at the next, and also Ines Cara's gone at that one. As they jump the 5th, I should be handing over to Tony O'Hare, but unfortunately we've got no power at Beeches, and I can see the back markers better than the ones at the front. We've got Supreme Charm out at the back with Jeddah as they come now towards Beeches Brook, and Bow on the outside is in the lead as they come to it. Merry People's there, Edmund is between the two. Esprit de Cotte's right up there on the inside. There's some fallers towards the back. But as they come now to the Foynhaven fence, the 7th, it's Bow, Merry People, Edmund, Esprit de Cotte, and Merry People made a very bad mistake there and is now riderless, but Bow and Carl Llewellyn steering a wide course with Edmund as they come to the canal turn. Then Blowing Winds improved into 3rd place. Brave Highland is not far behind them. Norris exit Swinger, but there's some carnage at the back as they come now towards Valentine's Brook, and Bow is out in front. Bow leads from in 2nd place, Blowing Wind. Then Edmund is close up. Mr. One has gone at that one as they come now to the next with Edmund just in the lead now from Bow, Blowing Wind and Tony McCoy well there on the inside. Brave Highlanders not far behind them as they go now to the 11th fence, and it's Edmund in front from Bow in 2nd place. Smarty is 3rd, then Blowing Wind is 4th, then in 5th place just in behind those comes Esprit de Cotte, who's gone at that one. Esprit de Cotte a faller. Unsinkable Boxers moved up, and Papillon is in a very good position too as they jump the 12th, and the leader is Edmund from Bow in 2nd, Smarty 3rd, Blowing Wind 4, Papillon 5, then just in behind them comes Noble Lord, then Unsinkable Boxer is next with Listen Timmy, and crossing the Melling Road now, tailed off is Supreme Charm as we join Jim McGrath.
Well, by my reckoning, there are 13 horses left in the Grand National with well over a circuit to travel, so testing of these conditions here at Aintree today. And Edmund, a proven mudlark, is out in front by 3 or 4 lengths to Bow, ridden by Carl Llewellyn, who very, very quickly went up towards the lead. Smarty is next as they come now towards fence number 13. Further back then is Blowing Wind, who's handling these conditions very well. They're nicely clear then of the chasing pack. Moondigwa is there as well. But as they come now to the 13th, it's Edmund who leads over it from Bow and Smarty. As a faller back in the field there, Noble Lord is gone. Noble Lord is gone at the 13th as they head now to the 14th. And it's Edmund, the leader from Bow. And then on the outside, Smarty as they head now towards this one. This will be the last next time round. They're followed by Blowing Wind, and behind them Papillon, last year's winner. Further back in the field, Moondigwa. Brave Highlander is still there. Unsinkable Boxer is still fighting on as well. And they've kicked right away from Supreme Charm and Listen Timmy as they come now to the chair. And it's Bow the leader to it. Bow gets over it. Oh, Edmund's gone. A shocking fall there. And Moondigwa's gone. Moondigwa's gone as well. Listen Timmy's made a remarkable recovery. And Supreme Charm is gone. So 3 gone in the chair as they go towards the water. Bow, the top weight, out in front. From in 2nd, Smarty. Then in 3rd, Blowing Wind. They're followed then by Red Marauder, who's gone into 4th and running well. Followed by Papillon. They're followed next by Unsinkable Boxer. Followed then by Brave Highlander as they race out. There are only 7 horses left in the National, 7 from 40 runners as they go out now with just under a circuit to travel. And the leader is Bow, putting up a great side out in front from Smarty. They're followed by Red Marauder and Blowing Wind, and then Papillon. Followed then by Brave Highlander, behind them Unsinkable Boxer. They're the only ones continuing in the Grand National as they go out with just under a circuit to travel. We rejoin John Hanmar.
And the 7 of them, there are just as many loose horses with the field. It's Bow out in front just from Smarty, then Blowing Wind on the outside, Red Marauder on the inside. Red Marauder led at that one, but Bow and Unsinkable Boxer made mistakes coming to fence number 18. Red Marauder on the near side, Bow out in the middle, who's jumping to his left, but Bow jumped that well from in second place, Blowing Wind, then Smarty, Papillon on the outside. Now Carl Llewellyn switch positions, come right over to the inside to jump the open ditch, fence number 19. And Blowing Wind has refused at that, Papillon's refused, and also Brave Highlanders refused. So we've just got Beau now from Red Marauder and Smarty, and Unsinkable Boxer also refused. Beau's almost down, he is down at the 20th. Carl Llewellyn's tried to hang on to him. We've only got 2 left, Red Marauder and Smarty, as they go now to fence number 21, the one before Beeches. Red Marauder on the inside, Smarty on the outside. Carl Llewellyn's running after Beau, but I'm afraid he's not fast enough. And going to Beeches for the second time, just the 2 in it. I don't know if anyone else is going to remount, but Red Marauder and Smarty as they come to it. This is Beeches Brook, loose horses everywhere. Here comes Red Marauder on the inside, jumps it well, so does Smarty. Just nodded slightly on landing Smarty, but Red Marauder, who's been in great form in stable, that of Norman Mason, coming to the Foynhaven fence, and they're going really steadily now, as you'd expect. Red Marauder leading from Smarty, and Lance Armstrong has remounted. I don't know where he is on the course at the moment, and there are several remounting and jumping the open ditch or trying to jump them. Lance Armstrong refused. Papillon and Blowing Wind are continuing, but they're only coming to the 20th fence, whereas over the canal it's Red Marauder on the inside and Smarty and Blowing Wind and Papillon jump the 20th together. Meanwhile at Valentine's Brook it's Red Marauder on the inside, Smarty jumps it well on the outside. They've got 5 to jump now and not much to choose between them. They're not racing at the moment. Red Marauder and Smarty coming to 5 out, and Smarty jumps that just the better, but Red Marauder still travelling well on the inside from Richard Guest, Timmy Murphy on Smarty as they come now to 4 out. Red Marauder and Smarty, and a hesitant jump by Red Marauder. That's a pretty big open ditch when the horses are tired. Smarty takes a 3-length lead. Papillon is over Beeches with Blowing Wind, but they've got no hope of catching the 2 up front unless anything happens. And Smarty well over the 3rd from home, 5 or 6 lengths clear of Red Marauder, and the other 2 are about 4 fences behind, but as they go across the Melling Road with 2 to jump, it's a match between Smarty and Timmy Murphy, Red Marauder and Richard Guest, as we join Jim McGrath.
Well, you have to go back in the history books to 1928, the last time 2 horses completed, and that was Tipperary Tim and Billy Barton, and Billy Barton was remounted. We've got much the same scenario here, as we've got 2 fences left to jump in the 2001 Martel Grand National, and Richard Guest takes Red Marauder into a clear lead now from Smarty. Richard Guest having his 8th ride in the race, this 35-year-old experienced jockey who was 2nd on Romany King in 1992. He's well clear of Smarty. Timmy Murphy, who's having his 5th ride in the race. The other 2 have remounted, but we can't see them at the moment. As they come down to the second last, Red Marauder walked over that one, dragged his back legs through. This is real stamina sapping stuff. In second place is Smarty. They're the only ones in camera shot, as they've got 1 fence left to jump in the Martel Grand National. And out in front, Red Marauder comes towards it now, got over it. Red Marauder well clear as they race up now towards the elbow. Now it's Red Marauder who's out in front. Battling on in second is Smarty, looking well back down the track to try and find Papillon, who's been remounted. But as they race towards the elbow, this is a famous victory for Red Marauder and Richard Guest as he races now past the elbow, up on the run-in now, the cheers of the crowd, and they are applauding a very brave horse and a great rider. It's a great ride by Richard Guest to go on and win the 2001 Martel Grand National on Red Marauder. Red Marauder comes home alone. Red Marauder, the winner of the Grand National, has won it by a distance. In second is Smarty. We look back down the track. I'm looking back down there. Blowing Wind and Papillon, they have been remounted. Blowing Wind being remounted by Tony McCoy. Papillon by Ruby Walsh. and they race now. They've got 2 fences left to jump, and they look like they will attempt to complete the course, and they're just hacking home here for the minor money. Smarty just crossing the line in second, and there are the remaining 2 who have been remounted. Papillon on the far side, and on the near side, blowing wind. Tony McCoy determined to at last complete the course. But there is the top of the screen. We see Red Marauder's jockey Richard Guest, one of the most experienced riders in the field. Here they come now towards the last, and it's blowing wind. Tony McCoy, who goes into third after having remounted. Papillon, last year's winner. Ruby Walsh looking over his shoulder. No point in pushing that one out to the line now. And they're racing towards the elbow. But there is the winning jockey, Richard Guest. He was second in this race in 1992 on Romany King. He's having his 8th ride today, and he's ridden a 33-to-1 winner of the Martel Grand National. As I speak, there's Tony McCoy bringing blowing wind home into third spot. And coming home fourth is last year's winner, Papillon. And there are only 4 finishers. I look back down the track, I can't see any other that have remounted or are attempting to complete the course. There's one, it looks like General Wolf is trying to complete as well. But at the moment we see 4 that have completed the course. Let's check the placings on the Martel Grand National of 2001. The winner is number 10, Red Marauder, owned and trained by Norman Mason and ridden by Richard Guest, who is his stable foreman. And these horses, incidentally, have not completed the course. They have gone around the outside of the jumps. They have not completed the course at all. And neither has General Wolf, who's not jumping in either. Third is number 14, Blowing Wind, owned by Peter Deal, trained by Martin Pipe, ridden by Tony McCoy. Fourth is number 2, Papillon, owned by Mrs. Maxwell Moran, trained by Ted Walsh and ridden by Ruby Walsh. But that's the 1, 2, 3. First, Red Marauder, ridden by Richard Guest. Second, Smarty, ridden by Timmy Murphy. And third, Blowing Wind, Tony McCoy, who at last completes the course after 5 previous attempts, and he had to remount to do it. Well, Richard Guest, what a jubilant moment it is for him. Getting the applause of the crowd. And this is a race that will go into the history books as one of the toughest and most grueling staying tests of all time. First, number 10, Red Marauder, 33-to-1. Second, number 27, Smarty, 16-to-1. Third, number 14, Blowing Wind at 16-to-1. And fourth, number 2, Papillon at 14-to-1. And the distances, a distance and the same. A distance and the same. He can't believe it. This 35-year-old horseman from a very famous family, famous racing family. It wasn't that long ago that he came into the weighing room up the north after being disgusted at a steward's decision and told them that they could have his riding license. He was giving the game away. And every time he wins a race now, he salutes. And I'm sure there will be an extra special salute today for the fact that he has won the greatest steeplechase of them all. And look at that brave horse. Look at the head on him. What a job he's done to get through that mud. There he is, Guesty, posing for the pictures. Norman Mason, the owner-trainer. And there he is, pushing through the crowd at this very famous unsaddling enclosure. Let's have a quick check of the SP. Red Marauder 33s, Smarty 16-to-1, Blowing Wind 16-to-1, Papillon at 14-to-1, and co-favourites, we had 3 of them. They were 15 Moral Support, 23 in this Cara, and 24 Edmund. 10 to 1.
Well, in the weighing room here, we've had more jockeys going by who haven't finished than those that have. But Guesty, you did it. What were those conditions like? Dear,
I've never been running worse. I mean, we were really lucky to get away with it, really. I was in 2 miles where we should have gone out there, really. He's nearly fouled 5 times, but he won't go down, will he? You know, on that ground he stands up, you know. I mean, he was awful at 2 or 3, but a lot more were worse, weren't they?
But you've won the Grand National, mate. You've won it.
Yeah, Gold Cup next, though.
Oh, the trainer Norman Mason said, Norman, you were saying he's a miracle worker there, but what a race that was.
Oh, it was. That was absolutely fantastic. I haven't got over it. I was in tears, actually. I've never had such emotion in my life, well, apart from my wife having with the baby. But, oh, God, what a race. I prayed. I was so...
It was so tough, though, the conditions.
I've never seen a race like that in my life. In my 25 years in racing, I've never seen a race like that. And the thing is, he seemed to be enjoying it. His ears were pricked and he was going along like a real old veteran, you know. It was always the worry that...
Hold on, what do you want to say to him now?
He's a miracle worker and I love him to death. I love it, I've told you. Oh, he's a miracle worker, this guy.
He wanted to be leading permit holder and win the Grand National when I arrived 3 years ago. We've done it. I can go now.
Yeah, you're not.
As assistant trainer as well, a double celebration for you.
Assistant trainer, yeah, as well. I mean, it was awful. He did amazing to keep the leg, you know, 2 or 3 times. Horse at the canal turn, wiped him out. He should have fallen, really, but credit to him, he's brave and, you know, he got a leg out. Last year on the firm ground, my dad reminded me, he come back with a bit of a sore foot as well. So it was only like a week ago we said we'd have another go, you know. Thank God we did, huh?
Yeah,
You mentioned the canal turn, but the loose horses were a problem as much as a condition.
I mean, any other horse, he stood on the fence and climbed up through the fence. He just didn't want to go down today. He must have made 10 mistakes, but he didn't want to go down.
Were you aware of what was happening around you?
I knew once I was up there that soon there must be a lot of loose horses, so I knew there was a whole lot of grief, you know. It was just a case. I was breaking his jaw, looking for... Harvey Smith would have been proud of me. I was getting some real short strides there. And it looked messy, but it was, you know, I got around, didn't I? You know, it looked awful probably, but it was a way of keeping him on his feet.
What a day when you think about 3 years ago when you handed in your jockey's licence. Now you're here. Not a bad day.
Thanks to this man I'm back. I wouldn't have been back without him.
And Norman, bring you back in.
Man, I have to say.
Okay.
He'd have got me the job.
Did you have a nervous and emotional time watching that one?
I don't watch, I can't watch.
Did you have any money on?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Now tell me, a lot of them are called Red Strike yesterday, Red Marauder. Why is that?
It was basically, I was over in Toronto about 10 years ago, and we went into the Chinese quarter of the town, and all the buildings were painted red. And I asked why they were all red, and they said, the Chinese are very superstitious, and they think red is a very lucky colour, and red itself. So I thought, I'll try a few reds. I can do with all the luck in the world, you know. So I started calling 1 or 2 reds, and it paid off, hasn't it?
And there's one over there, Red Rum as well, of course.
That's right, Red Rum, yeah, of course. So there you are.
But just watching that race, when it got down to just sort of 2 in it, I mean, how nervous was that watching that final round?
Nervous. I lifted that horse up myself and carried it over each fence. It was, I was close to tears. I was virtually praying every time he went to a fence. I was just to get him over. More, I would, this is my darling daughter. But more I was worried about the horse. He's such a lovely horse, and he was doing everything what Richard asked, you know, and he was struggling on there. It was what Richard said. He just as though he wasn't going to go down today, you know. Today was his day. Yeah. Oddly enough, I spoke to a chap last night at a dinner we were at, and he says, I'm telling everyone to back Red Marauder. And he says, do you know, I've been following your horses, and every time I've bet on one of the reds, they've won. And he says, I'm really in the pocket. I hope he's there to call him Jim. I'd never bet him before in my life. But he says, I've got a good feeling about that horse. He said, so I thought, but quite honestly, I never dreamed it was going to happen. I thought it was one of these, you know, miracle things. Yeah. It's a miracle that it's happened, you know. It's a miracle.
But just on a final...
Everything sort of come together, you know, Richard meeting me and the horses and, you know.
Just on a final note, though, looking at the conditions, and obviously a lot of people are going to say, should the race have been run? I know the loose horses cause a lot of problems, but you obviously have no complaints.
Oh, obviously not. God, I've won the best race in the world. Oh, God, what can I say? What can I do?
Okay, well, we'll let you go and enjoy your celebration.
A great horse and a great, great jockey.
Well,
Do marvellous things. Yeah.
Well, it's a great day. You enjoy it.
I'd just like to say, it would never have happened without Richard Guest. Richard is the fella, I'll tell you now. He does everything for me at home. He does everything. He's a miracle worker, that boy, honestly. I don't know where I'd be without him. All the credit goes to Richard, honestly.
Sure, thank you very much. Okay, so now let's find out more of what happened in that amazing race. It's back to the studio and Scu and Richard.
Yes, and Mick Fitzgerald, he's joined us too. Mick, not a great situation for you to be, but, you know, we are going to have a look at the whole race from several angles now. I've got a new toy behind me, which I'm going to try and use to pinpoint, but so much happened that it may be slightly difficult, but we will do our best anyway. So let's go to the start, where there we saw No Retreat was a little bit slow. Simon Morant up on his rostrum. This is the moment they want, Scu.
Yeah, I was pleased to see Simon Morant let them go quickly, Mick, because when the starters hold them on the tapes, that's when you get the problem. Would you not agree with me?
I agree wholeheartedly. I firmly believe they should take one turn round, everybody turn in, everybody should be ready at that stage because you've been milling around for a while, and off you go.
And here we go, Edmund up there right in the centre of your picture. That's the jockey cam, I think, of Jamie Goldstein. That's my son Thomas up there. Smarty's up there. That's Beau on the outside. But we are going to lose Spanish Main at the jockey cam and Art Prince here. All the jockeys have moved towards the outside, Richard, to look for the better ground.
And is that the plan that you'd have had, Mick?
I'd have been quite happy to go wherever I lined up and got a decent look at the first. Tom Doyle, who rode my horse, he's done the right thing. He's let the horse roll to the Melling Road, then sat. And you can see all these jockeys today have ridden with great credit, and they've ridden to try and get round, but unfortunately conditions just weren't in their favour.
Well, we couldn't see the fallers from that angle, so we're looking from the far side. There's blowing wind going over.
See the last fling make a bad mistake, he pecked quite badly.
Yes, yeah, typical first fence fall.
I was going to say exactly the same, Richard. They're just falls of, you're running quickly to the fence. Here they are. This is now the jockeys just sort of finding out how the horses are coping with the conditions. Actually, I thought that
was Spanish Main.
That was Spanish Main there. We've got I've got down Hollybank Buck and Khaki Crazy fall in there, but it did look as if Spanish Main
Buck was at the fourth. I just have to interrupt. All horses are fine. I must really stress that. It's been a depleted field. Beau up front on the far side, jumping like a stag.
Yeah, that's Hollybank Buck and Khaki Crazy.
Handicap going there. And you can see one's got badly bogged there. Horse falling in front of him was problem.
You can see the big ditch there, but all the horses, just going in and popping on. There's Hollybank Buck. He's done what you said not to do, and he got in too short, Mick.
He's got in deep, and basically the momentum has just flipped him over.
But the jockeys have Richard, they've all got their horses up on the bridle. This is what they're trying to do, just keep them nice and balanced.
It's interesting that Brian Crowley's gone right down the inside, hasn't he, on old General Wall?
Yeah, but Mick, you'd bear with me here, isn't it? You can spread out as much as you like, but if you've got a horse hanging with you left or leaning right, you've got to go where he will go. This is
exactly.
Feels like Gold goes here. He's been round a couple of times.
There goes Earth Mover in front of us. You can just see poor old Joe Tizard doing his best to try and hang on.
And he has come out backwards over the back of them.
Yeah.
Claire.
Joe Tizard won't like us for pointing that one out.
Well, your son knows where the camera is based. Scu's right up the front, wasn't he? We're coming up to Beeches, and we've got there Listen Timmy on the inside. We haven't seen much of him, but most of the action on the outside. We've got Esprit de Cot right up there, Mick.
Yeah, he's really enjoying himself. Tom's had a great spin off him. Beau as well, I think he has pinged off that ground.
That was a real mother and father, wasn't it?
I think that was Melly Moss.
Was it? He was just out of the picture a little bit, wasn't he? Look at McCoy going well on Blowing Wind in those Peter Deal colours, the yellow hoops on the outside, yellow crossbow. Edmund up in front, Beau cantering. We'll see some interesting stuff with Beau a little later on.
Merry People alongside on the red on the inside. He's enjoying himself. He ran very well in the race last year.
He certainly did. He's had several good runs. That looked like Mr. One that went there, I think. Mick, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah, well, your ride is in second now. Merry People is behind him. The outside is Beau. And in fact, it was the last fling that went there. Here we come to Beeches now.
Carl going down the outside there, trying to look for where is a little bit less of a drop there, just on the outside. A very experienced national rider. And Bo, I was delighted with the way he took to these fences. He just nodded there, as you would expect, a little bit, but now he's beginning to come across.
And look, Papillon just creeping into the action there. Let's have a look from the landing side then. That was Paddy's Return that went over there loose. You can see how the jocks have to sit back here, get the ballast. Once the backsides come past the ears, you are in trouble. Well, that was one of Terry Neal's, just a strong tell, and it was rather an easy fall, wasn't it? Right, well, very shortly we're going to come into the canal turn first time, and this is where we had a loose horse causing a lot of problems, and he wiped out a lot of horses, Claire.
Well, most of the jockeys here in the jockeys' room are watching fallers, so you can look at them all piled around here. Tom Scudamore, you went fairly early, didn't you?
Yeah, Beecher's first time. Jumped a bit steep, fell off the back.
And Norman, you were part of the pile-up at the canal turn.
Yes, very disappointing, but there was really nowhere to go. I think there was 8 of us went. There were 5 or 6 horses up on top of the fence when I got to it, and I just couldn't get out of it.
Well, let's keep going. We'll get to that shortly.
Right, well, let's go back on. It's this loose horse on the outside that causes all the trouble at the next fence. I think that's the Foynhaven. Yes, that's all right. But watch this loose horse on the outside, because he runs across into the corner of it, and we will see it. There is a fall askew at the Foynhaven, which is...
I haven't got it down as a faller here, but Merry People...
Yeah, there he is on the inside. Look.
Twice now, but,
in fact, it was an unseated rider.
Well, it's very hard to call that an unseated rider. Changing angle like that, you've got no chance of staying on.
Now, this is where the whole... We're back to Foynhaven. There's... you can see he belted that, didn't he?
I mean, the deceleration for a jockey to stay on that is almost impossible, Mick.
But look how many good horses are going well here. Bo, Edmund. Now watch the horse on the right-hand corner of your picture. He's just gone out of the picture, but he will come in shortly, and this is what causes the whole trouble. He runs down the fence, the leaders get away okay, and then he runs right into the thick of the horses, knocks one sideways there. You can see almost a repetition of the Foynhaven John Buckingham's year, stops 10 horses.
We have lost Jeddah there, Dark Stranger, Feels Like Gold, You're a Good and Melly Moss brought down, Village King brought down, and Moral Support.
Well, let's just see him again. It is, of course, old Paddy's Return who's doing the business there. And it's him who does all the problem. Look, here he goes. Paddy's Return runs into them. The leaders get away, quite luckily. But after that, you can see General Wolf. There's just nowhere to go, is there, Stu?
No, there's pop round on the outside there, but...
Feels Like Gold turns round, and
that was
you can see Village King scrambling over the fence.
That could have been very nasty.
It could, but I do reiterate, look at Norman's anguish there. All the horses are all right, but look at that, isn't that camaraderie?
Jim Collesley and Warren Marston there, helping each other out.
That's what's called...
Yeah, so you should, Warren. Nice bit of work.
Helping hand, you'd say, wouldn't you?
It's nice to see that. And the concern for the horses as well. Look at that. Now that's superb, isn't it?
Well, this is our helmet cam. It must be on, I think it's on Village King, isn't it, this one? And he just sort of scrambles over it, doesn't it?
No, this Feels Like Gold's thing. Well, it's hard to tell from a lens, isn't it? But
well, there's Moral Support. He got stopped.
Yes, coming back across St Valentine's, this is where, the jockeys must have sensed what's happening now. As Richard Guest said, once you realise that you're so far up there, you know that there's a lot gone wrong. That was Mr. One unseated his rider there. Richard Johnson on the outside there, giving his horse a lovely ride. All the jockeys. Now that's Smarty, who eventually goes on and finishes second, of course. But Mick, these jockeys have been a great credit to the sport, haven't they? Not rushed. Didn't see a stick picked up once. Even Tony McCoy and Ruby Walsh on Papillon towards the end. They just sat and just allowed the horses to jump round.
We'll get back to that later. Let's concentrate on the action now. Edmund going under Johnson on the wide route, looking for ground. Bo, look at Llewellyn, seeing a long stride there and getting it.
That's right, as I said, they're just all trying to keep the horses nice and balanced, and There's one.
I think that's Tom Doyle on
That's
my
Esprit de
intended
Cotte.
right, Esprit de Cotte, telling him he's had enough.
It's mixed emotions, isn't it, Nick? You're pleased you haven't missed one, but you'd like to see your horse do well.
I would have liked to see him got round because Tom he'd done everything right until then.
Well, over this fence, they all complete nicely here, but we do lose Noble Lord, a really fancied horse at the 13th. Noble Lord, whose participation was in doubt this morning, they decided to run, but he got to the 13th.
I think we've spoken about it already, but I think the experience is definitely coming through with these jockeys here. Richard Johnson, who's ridden around here before now. Carl Llewellyn, I thought, was masterful on Bow, and I'm sure he'll be sitting at home tonight thinking what might have been as we see how the race progresses. Tony McCoy, he must have been chuffed to bits with how Blowing Wind was travelling because the horse was really enjoying himself. And Timmy Murphy, he'd given Smarty an absolute peach because the horse didn't really feel like he was at the races.
And as we'll see later, he must have thought he'd got it at one stage when Red Marauder made that mistake. But this is, as we say, hunt round the first circuit, play jockeys on the second. They're all saving. They know petrol is going to run out, Mick.
You've got a full circuit and a bit to go here. A long, long way to go, and the field has been depleted. So they know that they've still got to go and do all this again.
But what's happening to these riders and jockeys now? Your problems are multiplying, aren't you? It's not just the fences, it's not just the soft ground, it's the loose horses that, again, are beginning to cause the problems that are running about in front of you. From these wonderful shots here, we'll see the loose horses. As I said that, there's no... they've just come into picture on cue. As I've said, luckily for the jockeys here, they're out wide, but there Edmund is making a mistake on the inside, and that really blew his chance, I thought.
There goes Noble Lord.
Noble Lord, and he's gone there.
Well, now, Mick, jockeys know that they're going to come very shortly to the chair, and you do concentrate the mind now because it is the narrowest part of the course, and that makes the fence look bigger.
It certainly does, but you can see here they're just coming down to the last, I think it is, with a full circuit to go. The loose horses have come back in here, and this, they know, is going to be their big concern. Because you have to go right-handed now to go and jump the chair. And Carl and Tony McCoy and Timmy Murphy and Richard Johnson, they all can see these loose horses on their outside. There's only one way they can go, and that's left-handed, which means they're going to take them out of the race. So that's another thing. Not only have you got to get over the obstacle, you've got to worry about loose horse wiping you out.
And it's always, as you said, the chair, as you said, Richard, being so narrow is a big problem. Luckily, the horses have gone up the running there, but they must join the race again later to cause havoc again.
That was landed on top of the fence there, didn't he? Right on the inside under Richard Johnson. And we can have another look. Look at the right of your picture now. It's Richard Johnson on the right-hand side of the picture. Beau just taking his ground a little bit there. Look, just taking his sight line. So Beau jumps, takes the top out. But what does Edmund do? Oh, you can't get away with that.
He's put down on him. Right on the stride where Richard wanted him to take off. He's actually put down. There goes Moon. I think that was Moon Dig with it.
Moon Digger, yeah. And Supreme Charm, he also gets rid of his jockey.
Tony Dobbin doing remarkably well to stay on this and Timmy down the inner.
I'm not sure, but I suppose I can just see out of another picture Richard smiling there. No, he's just galloped straight into the ditch. Isn't it funny? He made a mistake the fence before, and sometimes that can unnerve or unbalance a horse, and that horse has done exactly the same. That's number 29.
Well, he didn't take off, Skew.
Well, exactly the same as what Edmund did, Moon Digger galloped straight into the ditch of it.
But I do want to tell you, all these horses are fine.
That's Supreme Charm.
Supreme Charm. Well,
nice little dismount.
Well, I don't think the chair has ever looked so difficult to jump. Richard Johnson, you were going really well until then.
Yeah, he just it got a little bit blind going into it and didn't quite meet it on anything. And unfortunately, he paid the penalty, put his foot in the ditch, and had a hard fall. But he went on and jumped a few fences after, so he's in one piece and hopefully be back next year.
Now we get to the water jump, and by this stage you don't expect the field to be depleted to 7.
Bit of a joke, really, the water jump today, isn't it? They're all water jumps, aren't they? There's 36 water jumps.
That's a good line, Skew, for you. I'm very proud of you. There's old Brave Highlander popping over. You know, he doesn't get round today, but he does love it round here. Now, Mick, at this stage, jockey feeling. You've got round one circuit. You now start to think, how much can I save?
Yeah, I'm sure now, Carl Llewellyn, the one thing that's going through his head here, he's thought, this horse has got as far as this. He's twigged how to get on and do this job. All I've now got to do is try and save energy.
Just watch Smarty there. Look, you can see Timmy Murphy's decided, I want some good ground, I'm going wide.
Yeah, but you can also see Carl on the inside. He's switched to the other side of the track because he knows there hasn't been that many horses have gone right down the inside here.
And also, you've gone your first circuit, haven't you? And as you said, the horse has learnt now, or should have. But in fact, that silly old horse made a couple of mistakes now. But it's so... The soft ground makes it so unforgiving when you get to a fence. You know, sometimes on the good ground, you get 2 chances at a fence. Here, if you don't meet it spot on, exactly where you should take off, you've got no chance. And again, I feel with Bo, you know, he just made one mistake and it unnerved him a bit, and your confidence goes.
I just want to alert people at home that this is running onto the second circuit now, and it is the 19th in a little while where the next interruptions are.
Yeah. Did you see him, Richard? Richard there and Mick, he just came to that fence and he sort of half came up and ran. He was very clever, but it was unforgiving, and look, now he's lost his reins.
Have a look at this. Now that is amazing. He's trying to get the reins back over the horse's head. They look intact, but they're almost round his eye, aren't they?
Yeah, he's unlucky. If he'd had a little bit longer to a fence, he'd have got them back again, but he's back in the same position as he was before now and not being able to get his...
Carl,
and it's annoying the horse now, isn't it? And poor Carl, in a minute, has got nothing to hang on to.
But now the problems here, boys, we've got to watch out for. Papillon gets hampered and refused. Look, a loose horse goes right. Blowing Wind, Edmund is the loose horse, runs across. Blowing Wind got knocked off. We really want to look at that. I mean, there's trouble up front because Llewellyn's only got 1 rein. Now let's have a look at this. It's Papillon who gets hampered, Brave Highlander and Lance Armstrong in the green and white colours there. Well, you can't get away. It's the game loose horses.
Loose horses.
Yeah.
And it is a ditch too. You see, the ditch has made old Edmund say no thank
poor
you.
old Blowing Wind. I mean, he was very sensible, wasn't he, Blowing Wind? Tony McCoy has said, look, come on, we've got to get over this. And Blowing Wind said, look, we have got no chance.
In fact, Blowing Wind stopped 4 strikes before.
What was the horse that got over? There was one that... Was it Smarty that got over?
Smarty got over.
Because
he just missed the melee.
We are back to Cullen. What would you feel with only 1 rein? He's holding the breast girth there. Look, oh, you don't want that sort of thing.
It's difficult, isn't it? He's got no run at the fences. He's been trying to get his reins back, and he isn't balanced and going well at him.
No, he's desperately trying to hold it.
Well, Carl Llewellyn nearly got the best prize for horsemanship there. You nearly hung on.
Yeah, very disappointing. He was going bloody well. Just lost the reins at a bad moment. Could have lost them a bit later, I'd have been all right.
But your face after he galloped off, you were like a little spoilt child.
I was shouting at the policeman to stop him jumping the next fence.
We still think of his percentage.
I'd have got back on, I'd have been all right, I think.
He was going brilliantly till then.
Yeah, he was loving it, absolutely cantering.
I don't know why he fell off.
Just unlucky, you need a lot of luck and missed out on a bit.
You've had your share.
Do you actually think we should have been racing in that ground, though? I mean, you're a senior jockey. You
Most definitely. It was great ground. And if horses handle that ground, which plenty, I was handling it with 11-10, and plenty of horses handle it. There's loads of horses didn't handle it. It's beautiful ground. It's heavy ground. You go steady enough on it. It was great.
Well, let's have a look at those that still survived.
Well, Llewellyn's idea of beautiful ground isn't mine.
No, I admire what he says because some horses go on it. I know Richard Guest, said that horses made a few mistakes, but some do go on it, and they're entitled to race on it. And the point is that all the horses have come back safely. On the softer ground, they come back safely. That's the main thing. Guesty, we can have a look at the make of the sole of his boots, I think, there. But no, all credit to Guesty. This is horsemanship, isn't it? He's kept the horse's head off the floor.
Yeah. Now, Mick, how would jockeys feel? You haven't been in the situation, but how would they feel just 2 of them and going to Beeches and just 2 left in the race?
Well, I think you'd be quite pleased because it means that you've got a 50-50 chance of winning. You can see here the biggest problem on this ground is the fact that the national fences ride so well when you get into a rhythm and you keep that momentum up. But suddenly on this bottomless ground, you don't really have rhythm because you've got to meet everything and you're absolutely spot on.
Let's have a look at Beeches from the landing side. Smarty, you'll know, just watch him nod a bit. Look, that is typical landing over Beeches. But Timmy slipped the reins, sat back, safe. I tell you what I must say just at this stage now, because there will be newspaper journalists who say, should they race? In my opinion, they were right to race. No horses have been hurt. They hurt themselves less on soft ground.
Of course they do, and at the end of the day, you had a fence like the Canal Turn wiping out 10 horses. So who's to say that there wouldn't have been 12 horses in the race at this point if those other 10 hadn't been hampered and stopped.
Absolutely. Well, you can see Red Marauder absolutely cantering. Guesty was second in his first ever ride on Romney King in 92. He fell on the same horse in 94, 5th and 15th after that. And then he fell at Beechers, and this one fell at the 6th last year.
Here the canal turn now, you can see they were lucky again to get it. I mean, that is just inches, wasn't it? You know, fractions. If Guesty hadn't made a mistake at the fence before, he'd have been wiped out by the loose horse there.
Hard to see how he can breathe. He's pulled his goggles down there over his mouth at this stage.
But look at this horse here. He's got his ears pricked and he's looking for the next obstacle. You can see this, and Guesty's looking for the stride, and the horse has said, right, away we go.
You told me to shut up earlier, but am I allowed to say it now? That what a wonderful ride these jockeys have given these horses.
Fantastic.
You know, they're nursing them, and as I say, the horse is loving it. He's got his ears pricked. I mean, he's an athlete. This is what he wants to do. I mean, the only problem with Guesty along here is now and again he's not quite sure, and I don't blame him. You know, he wants to give the horse a kick, but he's a bit worried too, because if he gives him a kick and he doesn't come up, he looks at Pratt, and if he doesn't give it a kick, the old horse is loving it so much he's picking up anyway. And I think this is what happens at this fence now. You know, because the ground is so unsure underneath you, you haven't got a great deal of confidence in the surface. Let's just watch him. But as I say, he loves it, doesn't he? Look at him. There we go. Then see, the guest is half gone. No, and he didn't know what to do, did he? You know,
no. But at the same time, he's also given the horse the option of coming.
That's right. When we're saying there is no options there, isn't it? That's,
exactly.
You know, it's brilliant.
I asked you boys earlier, would they have been talking? You said, not on your life.
Well, that's what you said. What would the jockeys think when there's two of them? I tell you what, your concentration would have been one. This is your chance in a lifetime. You're going into the history books. There's a horse galloping.
Smarty, a big jump there. Imagine what Mark Pittman was thinking. His first ever runner as a trainer. He's been second in the race as a jockey.
Left on his own, and Guesty can have a little bit of a breather.
Smarty is emptied. The tank has all of a sudden emptied, hasn't it?
Yeah, I would think the feelings that Timmy Murphy has at this moment when he's riding in the race were absolute dread, because you think you've got it and suddenly it's taken away from you.
Is that a smile on Guesty's face?
No, that's a grimace, I think. But what makes me smile, I mean, Guesty is amongst the coolest in the weighing room. But in a minute here, you can even see him, you know, just...
The panic
just
setting in.
Yeah, just a little push button, because with two around you, he must realise that, you know, that, as I say, there's only two, but you're half not sure if you've missed one, aren't you? You know, you think, if I'm sat here going to the last and there's some brat set up behind me cantering, what an idiot you'll look, you know. But, and again, Guesty is going here to the last here, and he's just... sort of going, looking for the stride there, and he's actually got the confidence
to go. He went for a big one.
Yeah, he went for a big one.
But he saw it and he said, right. But the thing is, when you're racing down to a fence like that, you realise that, hold on a minute, I've got all the time in the world, I'm 20 lengths clear, and this is the Grand National. All I've got to do is get over this, not do a Devon lock, and we've collected the prize.
That's right.
Quite incredible. But you know, this horse is by Gunner B, who's had several winners this year. He's British bred through and through. Shade Oak stud, Mrs. David Jenks bred him. Isn't it marvellous that we can hold our own? You know,
definitely, but the Gunner Bs do like the soft.
And that stallion is 28 years of age now, and he's just got a Grand National winner. Now, what a feeling this is, with only 200 yards to go. The horse is coming backwards under Guesty, but he's looking... He said he didn't think he was stylish. That's all right in a tired horse.
I tell you, I wouldn't mind, well, swinging both legs one side and then back the other way. If I could win the National, it wouldn't matter.
Well, you know the feeling.
You know, the best orders in national hunt racing are to keep a leg each side. It doesn't matter what you look like, and that's what he's done. And the other sporting moment, I thought, was the huge cheer that the crowd gave him, despite all them losing a lot of money on the horses.
Now, look how he asked for a big one. It's quite low there on the inside, Mick.
It is, but when you're coming down to the last after 4 and a bit miles, you're quite pleased to see it low.
And doesn't that show the length of the run-in? Look how far the stands are.
I would think for Guesty it would feel like an eternity, and knowing Guesty like I do, he'd have been wanting to celebrate this triumph. But he couldn't, because he's still thinking to himself, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, and this is the National.
That's right, it's that uncertainty.
It is.
Are you sure there's only 2 standing?
You suddenly think that somebody's going to come out and say to you, I'm sorry, but you know, that it doesn't count.
or you've missed one, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's going to whip, hiding behind the chair to come and get you, you know.
Oh, you're a cuckoo lad, you
But
boys.
it is a feeling, I'm telling you, that you just cannot begin to believe. And I know Timmy Murphy, he'll feel gutted. Everybody, he should be so pleased that he's finished second. He's given the horse a fantastic ride. But at the end of the day, second means nothing.
Look at the
winners. Everybody remembers winners, and Guesty is on his own.
Well, you can see how elated Richard Guest was there, but what about the jockey who finished second, Timmy Murphy? You must have thought at one stage you had it won.
I did. Guest was making a few mistakes, and my fellow was jumping brilliant. And I was more or less hoping that, I know it's a bad thing to say, but I was kind of hoping he'd have fallen or unseated or something. But I had a look behind then, and he was travelling a lot better than I was. But at the end of the day, I got a great ride and thoroughly enjoyed it.
You seem a bit deflated now, though. I mean, all the other jockeys around you didn't get round. You ought to be pleased.
I am relieved, delighted for Mark and the owners. There was a lot of pressure on them coming up to it with the ground being so soft. He could have very easily not run, but he handled it better than most of them did, and jumped fabulous. So we're delighted.
Well, if we look even further back in the field, you'll see that Tony McCoy and Ruby Walsh have both remounted. They eventually finished third and fourth. We'll pick them up in the action there. But you guys went at the same fence originally, didn't you?
Yeah, just the loose horses. I was actually travelling really well, Claire, and just a loose horse came running across, and I actually fell off him. But it was another horse that, you know, I couldn't have took off. He had no option but to refuse, which was unfortunate because he was enjoying it so much.
So the two of you started off again together, and actually you probably needed the company, didn't you, Ruby?
There's no way either one of us would have got around. No chance. I mean, I wouldn't have got around without him. He wouldn't have got around without me. So it was grand.
And what were you actually saying to him? You turned around and waved at him at some point.
No. When we decided to get, I looked up at the big screen. I saw there was only 2 or 3 horses left, and I shouted to Ruby. I says, "Come on, we'll get back up," because my horse was jumping it so well. He was loving it, and as long as we could catch him, we jumped off and we started hacking away. And I said, "Right," he says to me, he says, "Right, we won't race until after the last. We'll just help each other, no matter how we're going, and we'll get round." And that's what we did. And to be quite honest, my fella was always going that little bit better. So, you know, rather than go off early and try and be third, I thought it was the best thing to do was to help each other, and that's why we got around. That's why we completed.
And you finally actually completed a national, despite the fact that you did fall in it. But did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it, but I'm gutted because I was travelling so well, and it was a loose horse that it stopped me any chance of winning. I know that happened to a lot of them at the Canal Turn or whatever, but I'm gutted. But I'm glad I finished third, but I'm gutted.
Yeah. And what about you, Ruby? Was Papillon all right afterwards?
Yeah, he was grand, I suppose. Ground wasn't really helping me, but it was still going okay, you know. It was still there, still jumping. It's hard to take it loose when standing the drain in front of you and to get a fall, but it's great we got back up and the horses are okay and we got around.
Well, there are more and more clothes coming off in here, so I think I better get out. Thanks, guys.
Well, it's been exciting for us down here as it has out there. Only 4 finished, Mick. We were thinking that slightly before the off, weren't we?
Yeah, we were. Conditions are so testing out there. It's as bad, I think, as it's... Well, since I've been riding around here, it's as bad as I've ever seen it.
Mm. OK. Well, let's get the 1, 2, 3 and 4. These were the only 4 that finished. The 3rd and 4th remounted. So Red Marauder, the winner, at 33 to 1, paying similar money on the tote. Smarty was second at 16 to 1, putting in a bold show there. Blowing Wind, who was really hampered and got rid of McCoy at the 19th, remounted to finish 3rd at 16 to 1, but you'll get paid out nevertheless. And 4th you'll get paid out to Papillon, last year's hero, on ground he didn't like again, knocked out of the race at the 19th, but came back in to finish 4th at 14 to 1. Now, this is what happened to the rest of them. If you had a sweepstake today, we'll be able to show you what happened where. There were only two that went at the first, and they, of course, were Spanish Main and Art Prince. Then we get to the second fence, Tresor de Mai, Handicap, Ginger McCain's, and Addington Boy fell. We move on to fence 3, the Big Ditch. Hollybank Buck, Cucky Crazy, and Paddy's Return. Paddy's Return, the one who did all the damage a little later on in the race. Now, fence 4, which is a pretty easy fence after that third ditch, Earth Mover and Inniscarra, 2 very fancied horses, exited. At Beecher's Brook, first time, Merry People fell. Last Fling went. Strong Tell fell. Northern Starlight unseated. Tom Scudamore, he might dispute that tomorrow, of course. Exit Swinger only got there. He fell too. Now, at the Canal Turn, this was where all the trouble was caused by Paddy's Return. General Wolfe unseated. Jeddah brought down. Moral Support refused. You couldn't blame him for that. Melly Moss brought down. Dark Stranger, You're a Good 'Un, and Village King. They just had nowhere to go. Now we had Feels Like Gold was brought down, and Valentine's Mr. One unseated his rider. Fence 11, Esprit de Cotte fell. A Noble Lord went independently at 17. The Chair saw Amberley House unseat his rider, I think fell, probably right, yes. Edmund and Moondigger and Supreme Charm, they all went. The Water Jump, listen, Timmy unseated his rider, that's a rarity. And No Retreat, well, he pulled up, having been rather mulish at the start. Now, at fence 19, this was the open ditch, Lance Armstrong refused, so did Brave Highlander, and that was the fence where they knocked out Papillon and, of course, Peter Deal's horse, Blowing Wind, who ran on to be third. Now, Beau unseated his rider, pretty unfair, though he had no reins at the time, and Carl Llewellyn had no choice but to exit right-handed stage. Unsinkable Boxer went at the same fence. Now here is Red Marauder, as I said before, by Gunner Bees, like his stallion. He's just got those boots still on in front, and they must have had a fair bit of trouble on the way around, having a well worth drink. Now, of course, we have Mr. Norman Mason with his wife and daughter getting this trophy from the face of Martel. The young lady presenting this is just called Martel. Lord Daresbury up on the podium there to make sure that everything goes according to plan. This is a 16-inch silver and gilt chase bowl in deep brown English wood, and that made by Boodle and Dunthorne. Now that trophy, of course, is one that is so sought after, and does that not epitomise what the Grand National is all about? There's plenty of the sponsors' product there for everyone to have a party later on. And Norman Mason's daughter there, well, she'll remember that. When she grows up, this will be something to look back on. Richard Guest, as Norman Mason said, not only was he the winning jockey, but he is also assistant trainer. And this is all down to him. Norman Mason, no doubt, will want to add to his 10% that he'll get for having done such a good thing as a jockey. Well, Martel on the far side for the Martel National 2001. You won't forget it.
Great scenes, but now let's get further reaction to the race. I'm joined by Aintree's Managing Director, Charles Barnett. Now, Charles, I heard from Norman Mason. He had no trouble with the race. He was absolutely delighted. But you've been out and about. You've spoken to many of the other trainers. What's been their reaction to the conditions today?
Well, I don't think I had any problem with the race. And certainly talking to the jockeys, the conditions were heavy, of course, but they weren't unraceable.
Must have been slightly worried, though, going into that second circuit, with only really a couple still running at that point.
Well, yes, I think when there's few there, it is always worrying. But you see the way they came home, and they came home very sensibly and steadily. And I'm sure if it hadn't been for the balking incident early on in the first circuit, we'd have had many more finishes.
Yes, that's fair that the jockeys have said, you know, on both circuits it was often loose horses that caused the problems rather than the heavy ground.
I think that's right, and you could see with the way that, particularly at the Canal Turn on the first circuit, how the horses were taken down. It's a great pity when that happens. It's sad, but that's racing.
But the good thing is that all the horses are back safely. That's what's important.
Yeah, prime priority for me. All the horses are back safely, and I believe all the jockeys as well.
Yes. Thierry Dumaine, we understand, has a leg injury. He's gone to the hospital, but we don't think it's serious. Is that right?
That's as I understand it, yes.
Okay. But it's been a good day all in all, Charles.
Well, it's nice to get through the day, really, because we've had atrocious weather for 3 days, and I think people have enjoyed themselves here.
Yes, it must have been very difficult 3 days for you, I think, and all concerned here at Aintree.
Yeah, it's very hard work. I think everybody's worked extremely hard. You can imagine people out on the course all hours, repairing it from yesterday to get it right for today. It's nice it's been a success.
Certainly has. Charles, thank you very much. And just one other fact that you might be happy about, Ladbrokes have announced that it's been the biggest betting Grand National of all time here this year. Well, we'll have more reaction here from Aintree. It was a fascinating race, but there's been plenty of football played around the country too. Let's get all the news on that as we join Ray Stubbs back in the London studio for Final Score.
Thanks, Sue, and some of us have lost quite a few pounds this afternoon as well. Still plenty of time for goals to be scored around the country. Final whistle still a fair away from sounding yet. Let's look and see what's happening in the FA Carling Premiership and some significant scores. Aston Villa 2, West Ham 1, and it was all looking good for West Ham, who went ahead in the first minute of the second half through Frederick Canute. West Ham have lost the last 4. They've had a very difficult time since Christmas, but Villa have struck back 2 goals, one on 71 from David Ginola and one on 78 from Lee Hendry. And Villa have got 11 points from the last 15 and are making a charge towards the UEFA Cup places, are leading 2-1. It's Derby 0, Chelsea 2, so Chelsea's away form, 1 away win so far, means that Chelsea are going to climb a place. Gianfranco Zola and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. West Ham just equalised through Frank Lampard, 2-2 now. So it's going to go to the wire at Villa Park this afternoon. West Ham could do with a point just to ease themselves completely away from any thoughts of the relegation zone. Leeds are going to go back third, it seems, in the Premiership table this evening because they're beating Southampton by 2-0. That's Harry Kewell and Robbie Keane. Back to third, going so well in the Champions League. On the field, Leeds are having a sensational time at the moment. And Leicester City 1, Coventry City 3. Are we about to see the start of a sensational great escape and Coventry to stave off relegation? Craig Bellamy gave them the lead after 2 minutes. Adi Akinbaye equalised. Lee Carsley made it 2-1 and John Hartson has made it 3-1. So having won last Saturday, Coventry look like they're going to Filbert Street and winning again, and that means they're going to climb to within a point of getting out of trouble. Right, let's see what's happening in the Scottish Premier League this afternoon. Quickly through these scores, it all splits up after this weekend's games and it goes into 2 mini-leagues. Dundee winning by 2-0. Celtic 1, St Mirren 0. They're the champions. The significance of that coming up in a moment. Dundee United 1, Hearts 1, Kilmarnock 2, Dunfermline 1. Dunfermline need a point to get into their top mini-league of 6. They're not going to do it at this stage, it seems. And Motherwell 1, St Johnstone 0. But the story of the day in Scotland, congratulations to Martin O'Neill and his squad. It's been a sensational performance. They clinched the title by beating St Mirren by that 0-0. And here's a match report from Rob McLean.
It's party time at Celtic Park. Celtic are the Scottish champions on the first Saturday in April, and with still 5 league games left. Robert Douglas, the goalkeeper this afternoon, pretty much untroubled against St Mirren this afternoon. It was top against bottom. Celtic won by only the 1 goal, but no one is complaining about the scoreline this afternoon. What was all important was that Celtic got the 3 points, 3 wins in a week, and Celtic have the championship.
And that game was at lunchtime, so the celebrations are well underway. Chelsea have scored another goal at Pride Park. Derby County 0, Chelsea 3. It's Gus Poyet, so 1 away win in 14. Now Chelsea on another guess.